And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lawler versus Fletcher step forward.
Brittany Lawler claims ex-boyfriend Nathan Fletcher broke their apartment lease. Nathan says Brittany kicked him out after he spanked her son.
Miss Lawler, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together, signed a one-year lease in an apartment. You moved in, there were three of you. You, the defendant, and you have a child who's 6. You lived together and everything was pretty okay for a while, and then there was an incident involving your son. And the incident involving your son surrounded an eating tantrum that he had. And according to Mr. Fletcher, he threw a tantrum and Mr. Fletcher spanked him. After that, the two of you separated, never got back together again. Mr. Fletcher did pay the rent for a couple of months and then stopped. You want him to pay the last 3 or 4 months' rent because he signed the lease with you. Mr. Fletcher said really anticipated that you would be back together again, that you told him to leave, and that he's not going to pay any rent since you asked him to leave. And not only asked him to leave, you told him to leave. I believe in your answer, Mr. Fletcher, you say that her parents gave her an ultimatum. Either you left or they were taking her son.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what happened?
No.
Well, we'll find out. If they did say that, it probably would have been the right thing to do. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, ma'am.
There are certain given facts in this case. You signed a joint lease, which obligated you to pay half the rent. You did not pay half the rent for how many months? 3?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
3 months. But for the other 7 months, you did. And what was your share of the rent?
$745 a month.
And yours was $745?
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you living now?
I'm still living there. The lease is not up yet, and I'm moving back in with my parents.
Who's paying the rent now?
I am.
From what?
I had to borrow money. I had to take out a personal loan with the bank in order to cover the rent.
Do you work?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Fletcher, tell me when you spanked her son.
It was evening of the 8th, Monday. Had cooked some dinner for him. Huh?
8th of what?
January. He was eating dinner, and all of a sudden he just started having a little tantrum, and I told him to stop, spitting food all over the carpet, told him to go to his room, wouldn't comply, so I spanked him.
Why don't you just pick him up and put him in his room?
Didn't think about it.
How old is he?
He was 5 at the time.
Where did you spank him?
On his bottom.
What'd you use?
Back of my hand.
How many times did you hit him?
I hit him once.
Once?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
I wasn't there. I'd have to take his word or my son's word, so.
Well, you don't have to take his word. What did your son say?
My son said that he had hit him very hard, so he was upset.
Is there any mark on him?
There was a little mark, yes.
You told your parents?
Yes.
And what happened?
When I saw it, I asked him, I said, you know what, you can't stay right now. This is not going to be a good situation. I don't know what's going to happen. I asked him to leave temporarily while he maybe did some parenting classes, maybe anger management or something to help cool things down and maybe fix the situation so that we could stay together.
So what do you want him to do?
I want him to fulfill his obligation and continue to pay the rest of the rent.
But he can't live there, Miss Lawler.
He can't live there because of his own behavior, because of his own actions.
I mean, I don't think if he hit... I'm not advocating, Mr. Fletcher, using corporal punishment on your child. Let's start with that. However, since you left him with your son in a position of parenting authority, there's a difference between corporal punishment and excessive corporal punishment. If Mr. Fletcher says he hit him once on the behind, and that's what he says, and you have no reason to dispute that, and if you told him to leave as a result of that, and he did not have the ability to stay in the apartment because of that, he shouldn't have to pay the rent.
He signed a lease, and because of his actions...
You move.
And how am I going to move with my son when everything in that apartment was mine?
Listen to me, Miss Lawler. That's a choice that you have. Instead of telling him to leave, say, listen, we have the following choices. We're both on this lease. I can't afford the rent because I'm not working. I'm going to move back with my parents. You can stay in the apartment. Or, if I stay in the apartment, we have to do something with the lease. But you told him to leave.
It's temporary.
No.
Yes, it doesn't.
No, you gave him... No.
No.
My dear, temporary.
He left some of his stuff in the apartment, so he knew it was not permanent. I told him, you get some parenting classes, you do some counseling,
that has nothing to do with the lease.
Yes, it does. It has everything to do with
Miss Lawler, it has nothing to do with the lease, madam. He didn't sign a lease and sign on to take on parenting classes or anger management classes. That wasn't a condition of his lease.
No, he did sign a lease that he would fulfill his obligation to pay his rent for the entire year. It doesn't matter what happened. He has an obligation to finish paying the rent.
That's why you're here. He did, in fact, pay 2 months' rent when he wasn't...
And he would continue to pay the rent because it was his obligation.
And I'm telling you that you told him to leave.
I asked him to leave temporarily until the situation calmed down. Am I supposed to put my son and me in some
When
situation
is your lease? When is your lease?
comfortable?
Listen to me. When is your lease up?
My lease is up in the end of this month.
Well, you should have come to court earlier. I would have told you to go back to your parents earlier and told him to move back into the apartment.
What I have done? He can't pay the rent. We would have both still been on the lease, and we both still would be...
Miss Lawler, that's a what if. And what I'm telling you is the lease is up in 20 days. Instead of waiting 20 days, you should have sued him before. You should have gone in the first month that he said, I'm not paying any more rent.
I couldn't, because I had to go back every month.
And then I would have said to you, Miss Lawler, go home to your parents now. Mr. Fletcher, you go back to the apartment and continue to pay the rent.
He couldn't have paid the rent by himself. Either way, if he had stayed or I had stayed, it doesn't matter. We would still be in the same situation.
Miss Lawler, right now, he paid rent for 2 months in an apartment where he was not living. When he was not living, you threw him. Don't you get it?
I did not throw him out. I asked him to temporarily leave. That's not...
When did you invite him back?
I wouldn't invite him back had he not...
Just answer my question.
If you would let
When
me.
did you invite him? You said, I asked him to leave temporarily. When did you invite him back? On what date?
I told him he could come back when he took some counseling.
He doesn't have to do that,
Well,
madam.
then he doesn't have to continue the relationship with me. If that was the circumstances, he knew that when he moved out, that he needed to get some help to continue the relationship so that he can move back in. It was not just the spanking of my son that started this. He has been unstable and yelling, screaming, accusing me of cheating. Every other week,
that's a whole other... Then you should have gone home to your parents earlier, Miss Lawler. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused when they step around.
I just got...
Kicked me out, took the key. Don't belong there, right? Don't need to pay? Easy as that?
He had an obligation to pay the rent. Because of his actions, I asked him to temporarily leave until he got help. He didn't get help, and I broke off the relationship. I shouldn't be in debt. I'm working, I'm taking care of my son, I'm going to school. I'm a good person, and I just made a mistake, and he just got a free walk.
I gave him punishment, being out of hand, didn't pay the rent.
Honey, you were sort of helping him out at a time that he needed to be helped out financially. He's counterclaiming because he says that in a fit of rage, you damaged his car, his clothes, and he also believes that you harassed him. That's his counterclaim. So tell me when you met him.
I met him in August of last year.
And when did you lend him the money?
Of last year.
Tell me about it.
John had lost his job, and he couldn't pay his rent.
When did he lose the job?
November.
What kind of job did you have, Mr. Bambino?
Car salesman, ma'am.
How long did you have that job with that company?
7 months.
Before that, where did you work?
As a correction officer for the state of New Jersey.
How long were you working there?
15 years.
Go ahead.
In December, I was coming into some money through a lawsuit, and I had extra money, and, you know, he asked me to lend him his rent money for the month of December, and that's what it was. I lent him the money.
How much was it?
It was $1,200.
$1,200 for rent. Go ahead.
And one bill is $452.07.
What was that for?
A home entertainment system.
Who bought a home entertainment
that
system?
I bought for him, that he was supposed to pay me back for.
No. Miss Smoot, listen to me carefully. If somebody doesn't have money to pay his own rent, then you don't buy him a home entertainment center and expect him to pay you back. You're not a baby, right?
Right, Your Honor.
What else?
Cable bill, $100. I have a check that he wrote, that I gave him a blank check to take to the doctors that has his name in the memo for $80.
Did she give you a blank check to pay a doctor?
Yes, ma'am.
What else?
A gas bill for $100 in December.
$100 even?
Well, it was, his gas bill is way more than that, but I only paid $100 on it.
Go ahead.
2 checks for food, one for $87.40 and one for $42.71.
Made out to whom?
To Acme.
Did you use those 2 checks?
No,
No,
ma'am.
I wrote them.
He doesn't know you for that.
Okay,
What else?
that's it.
Okay, Mr. Bambino. Ball is in your court, sir. Where are you working now?
Chevrolet 73.
So you're back to work?
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. So Ms. Smoot says that you said, if you pay my rent, as soon as I get a job, I'll pay you back. You say that's not true. Tell me what happened, Mr. Bambino. By the way, how old are you, sir?
43.
Have you been married?
Yes, ma'am.
You have children?
I have 2 daughters,
How old are they?
17 and 24.
When did you last live with them?
I have custody of my younger. Actually, I've had custody of both since my divorce in '98. I have custody of my youngest now.
So how are you supporting the children?
My mother helps me out, but I mean, I just ran into a tough time between, like, let's say the Monday before Thanksgiving and I started my new job January 5th.
Right.
So it was approximately 6
So
weeks.
what you're telling me is your mother helps you out.
She helped me out in that particular time frame, yes, in the beginning of January.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
I met Tina, as she said, in the middle of August. We started the date.
Would you try looking at me
I'm sorry, yes,
rather than
ma'am,
keeping
sure.
your eyes closed? It's disrespectful.
I'm sorry. I met her in the middle of August at a club over in Philadelphia. Approximately 2 weeks later, she accused me of staring at a woman on the track. She told me to get in her Jeep. She started to give me a ride, which was the ride from hell. She just started driving down the interstate, doing approximately 70, 75 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic.
But after that, you took money from her.
No, well, ma'am, it's...
Listen to me. After that, you took money from her. So I'm not interested in a ride
I didn't
from
take
hell.
money.
Yes, you did.
She gave me the money, ma'am.
That's not what I said. I said you took money from her.
Yes.
After the ride from hell, which would have put me in a different county from somebody like that, you took money from her.
Yes.
Right. Did you think that the story you were going to tell me was going to make you a sympathetic character?
Not at all.
Good. Let's get to the money. Come on.
Oh, well, after several pretty bizarre things that Tina pulled between September and December, I tried cutting off the relationship several times. Tina's texts me 15, 20 times a day, calls me, begs me to let her back into our relationship, start our relationship over.
Is this your child?
No, ma'am. She's a witness in this factor. Tina, I let back in approximately times between September 1st all the way up to the February 11th. She just constantly says I'm cheating on her.
You want to know something? You want to tell the sad story? Go on Dr. Phil.
Right.
To me, I want to know. To me, I want to know about the money.
The money. Tina would manipulate things and try to get me to let her back in. And after 3 or 4 weeks of constant texting me every day and please begging me to let her come back and start the relationship over, I did it several times. Tina...
Bambino, listen to me carefully. Get to the money.
I am?
In December, she may be desperate and she may find something about you attractive. Mr. Bambino, I do not.
I know that.
You are 43 years old. You look every day of it.
I know.
And then some.
Invited me.
And Mr. Bambino, and then some. I have children who are 43 years old, sir. That's not you. That's the first thing. Second thing is, let's get to the money in December. Excuse me, you date him? No. Perfect. Get to the money.
All right, I let Tina come back over in early December. She laid $1,200 on my couch and said, pay your bills with this. I don't care when you give it back to me, just pay your bills. She insisted. I did pay. I paid my rent with it, of course. The other things, the utilities, she paid $100 for the heating bill.
Mr. Bambino, how do you think Miss Smoot knew that you didn't pay your utility bills and that you didn't pay your rent? How do you think?
By communicating
By you
with
telling
me.
her. And it was that kind of casual conversation that inspired her to leave the $1,200 on the table for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah. And it was at that time that you were concerned about her bizarre behavior that she exhibited 6 or 7 times.
Over that 6-month frame, yes.
Now, you were a corrections officer for 15 years, sir. You knew that there were certain prisoners that were dangerous, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you were dealing with a dangerous prisoner, there were certain protocols. You made sure that you didn't put yourself in harm's way. That was your training, right?
Absolutely.
So here you're dealing with a lunatic, somebody who over the course of 6 or 7 months is doing crazy, bizarre things. So instead of cutting it off, you know where the courthouse is. So if you know if somebody is stalking you, somebody is annoying you, you go to the courthouse and you say, this person is stalking me, annoying me, I need a protective order. Instead, you had somebody stalking you, you took their money. No. You took their money. I didn't say loan, I didn't say gift, I said you took their money. Well, you did. You just told me that, Mr. Bambino. You told me she was stalking you, harassing you, doing all kinds of bizarre things, and she put $1,200 down on the table, and she paid your bills, and you took it. That's what you just told me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have to be a nice man, Mr. Bambino.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tina Smoot claims ex-boyfriend John Bambino owes for a loan to help with his living expenses. John is countersuing for harassment and claims Tina intentionally damaged his property.
Okay. Now, It is your claim, Mr. Bambino, your counterclaim, that the plaintiff damaged your property, harassed you, and damaged your clothing. You want to tell me when that happened and where?
Yeah, first week in November, Tina was going to North Carolina for a wedding.
And when did she give you the money, sir?
December.
On a sympathy scale, sir, of 1 to 10, this is about going to be a -5, because what you're going to tell me is that she, again, acted like a nut, but you took money from her the next month, right?
Yes.
Keep going.
She told me she would let me borrow her Jeep. I dropped off my friend's automobile that I was using at the time, which was a female friend of mine for 18 years. Tina, in the process, went in the glove box and found out who the car belonged to. She took a pen and ripped the whole roof of the inside of the car, ripped the leather on the seats, took a soda and threw it all over my clothes in the back. That's the incident in November.
Why did you do that, Tina?
I didn't go to that extreme.
What did you... Tina.
What happened?
Why did you do it?
I didn't do that, Your Honor.
Yes, you did. You did some of it.
I called him and told him to bring my Jeep.
What did you do to the stuff in the car?
I poured soda on his clothes, that was all.
You poured soda on his clothes. Is there a police report with regard to the damage to this friend's car?
No, ma'am, but I have pictures.
It's not your car.
It's not my car.
Did you fix the car?
Not yet.
Then you're not the person who can file this claim against Miss Smoot. That would be the car owner.
Yes, ma'am.
And as far as throwing soda on your clothes?
So what?
You owe her $1,480. You have to be a nice man, Mr. Bambino.
I'm a very nice man.
No, you're not. If she's a nut, you're not supposed to take advantage of people who are not balanced. If you actually believe that Miss Smoot is not balanced, then what you're supposed to do is not be a cad and take advantage of her financially. You're supposed to say, I don't want your money. I don't want it as a gift. I don't want it as a loan. I don't want you in my life. I don't want that at all because I don't think you're balanced. I think that you should take this money and use it well by going to see a doctor who will maybe give you some medication to help you feel better. Instead, what you did is you took advantage of her because you're not a nice person. Nice people don't take advantage of sick people. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,480. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was all a big joke to him anyhow.
That's totally not the case. It's totally not the case.
She thinks that something's going on between us. We're just co-workers. She's a little insane. She needs some medicine.
That's what she thinks.
I feel bad because she's not a bad person. She's got 2 beautiful daughters.
First of all, I don't have 2 daughters. I have a daughter and a son.
I'm not going to date women ever again.
I will never let anybody take advantage of me again.
I'm going to do a background check and...
All parties in the matter, Rulo versus Wilson. Step forward.
Jessica Rulo is suing her daughter, 25-year-old Jessica Wilson, for a loan to buy a Chevy Suburban and for child care costs for her 3-year-old son.
Ms. Rulo, the defendant is your daughter.
Yes.
And it is your claim that some time ago you co-signed for a car for her.
Correct.
With the understanding that she was going to make the payments on the car.
Correct.
She did not make the payments on the car. The car was repossessed.
Yes.
And you had to pay for the balance of the loan on the car. Your daughter says that there was never any intention of her making payments on the car. Her husband, at the time, put down a down payment on the car. You were supposed to make the payments on the car. You didn't do that. The car was unfortunately repossessed. She doesn't know anything about anything. Who is that?
It's my husband, Your Honor.
Does he live with you?
He did.
Until when?
January 11th on her release from prison.
From whose release?
Hers?
Hers. Sounds like a lovely family.
Yes.
In addition, it is your claim that while your daughter, I believe, incarcerated or unavailable to take care of her child, you were taking care of her son.
Correct.
With the understanding that she would help you with the child's support.
Correct.
She didn't, and when her husband was released from jail, he too moved in with you,
Correct.
with the child, and stayed with you, so you were then supporting both of them.
Correct.
When were you released from prison?
I wasn't in prison, Your Honor.
Where were you?
I was in the county jail.
County jail. Excuse me, we're talking semantics here. You were incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
2 months.
For what?
I had.
Stand up when you talk to me.
Yes, ma'am. I had to go back and get my case terminated for my child support.
Could you move over here, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you telling me you were in jail because you weren't paying child support?
No, I missed my revocation hearing because my lawyer was waiting for the paperwork.
Just a second. What had you been arrested for, sir?
Because I missed my court date for my revocation hearing because my lawyer didn't get my...
Just nothing in the penal law, sir, about violation of the penal law in any jurisdiction that talks about a revocation hearing. Do you understand? You were originally arrested for something, charged with a crime. What was the crime?
Child support.
So you were delinquent on your child support.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the only reason you were incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
What child weren't you supporting?
Oh, my daughter.
Not this child. This is
No.
a boy.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how old is that child?
She's 9.
Why weren't you supporting her?
I was, and then I got in a big old dispute with her mother. She wouldn't let me see her, and so I quit giving her money.
Okay, so they put you in jail.
Only reason they put me in jail is because I missed my court date for my revocation hearing. My PO wrote me a violation.
He gave up full custody of his daughter so he wouldn't have to pay.
So he terminated his parental rights. Good. Is her mother married to someone else?
Yes, ma'am.
So this other person is going to be her father.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds like a perfect solution for that child anyway. When you got out of jail, you moved in with Miss Rulo.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me why that is.
She told me I could come stay there.
Well, she must have gotten a call from you.
Yes, I talked to her when I was in the county jail.
And you said you had no place to go?
No, ma'am.
Go ahead.
So she told me I could come stay there.
You mean, yes, ma'am. You told her you had no place to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Why didn't you have a place to go?
Because I didn't.
Don't you work?
I was until then.
What were you doing?
Floor layer.
And where were you living?
I was in Oklahoma when I got extradited back to St. Louis.
Yes.
That's not correct. She has supported him since day one since she went in the service.
But you're no longer in the service.
No, ma'am.
Were you honorably discharged or dishonorably discharged?
Dishonorably.
For what reason?
I went AWOL.
Sit down. Okay. When did you co-sign for this car?
In May of 2005.
And what were the payments?
$291.34 a month for 2 years.
Your daughter took possession of the car?
Immediately.
Did she ask you to co-sign for her?
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
She and her husband was working full-time at that time. She was a bartender. He was laying floors. They had a nice home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, taking care of my grandson. She had wrecked a car previously the month before that, ran it into a tree. She was without a vehicle. Mom, will you help me? I'll help you.
And what was the arrangement?
For her to pay the payments. I would co-sign for her and she'd make the payments.
Because she didn't have sufficient credit?
Correct. My credit was better. That's why they put me first on the loan and not her, because my credit was better than hers.
When did you stop making payments on the car?
When I went to join the military, she agreed to make the payments for me because she was proud of what I was doing. And
when was that?
That was the following year.
Well, did you make payments for the whole year?
I made payments until the following, I believe, May. I don't know the exact dates.
Well, why didn't you make all the payments?
Because she agreed to start making the payments for me.
No. You said you made payments for a year, but then you joined the military, and she was proud of you, so she said she'd take over the payments.
Yes.
Did you make payments for the entire year?
I got the vehicle in June, and I made payments, I believe, until the following May. And then that's whenever I started signing my contract with the military. I actually signed that July, but when I started talking to the recruiter and things like that, that was in June. And that's when she had agreed to take over the payments.
Is that right?
No. I have a history of all the payments that she made, knowing that she had to make these payments, and how many she missed in between there.
Can I see them, please?
They're all highlighted. The last one after she went into the military was return non-sufficient funds from her husband.
Where was the car when you went into the military?
My husband had it.
So why didn't he make the payments?
Because she had agreed to do it.
How many cars did you need?
Just the one, Your Honor.
Well, if he's working, then why wasn't he paying for the car?
He wasn't working when I went into the military.
Why not?
Because he was.
Because is not an answer. Why wasn't he working?
He was taking care of our son.
Ton at the time.
He was 3.
And he wasn't in daycare? What?
He was living with me, taking care of his son. He was not working.
Can I see the payoff, please, for this car? You should be embarrassed. Are you embarrassed? You should be embarrassed. You started making payments on this yet?
Her husband actually made the December payment of $125 because he was staying with me and paying nothing else.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
No, he did not pay January's.
The amount of this is $5,500.
Right.
It exceeds the jurisdiction of this court. So I really don't even have to go into the issue of supporting your grandson, because whether I find that she was responsible for that, which she is, of course, because even if she didn't agree to it, she's responsible for the necessaries of her own child. That's the law everywhere. It would exceed this amount. Where is the child now?
With her. Most of the time he's at my house with my other daughter.
What are you doing now?
I'm currently looking for a job.
Do you have any kind of problem that has to be addressed in treatment?
No, ma'am.
What about him?
No, ma'am.
You mean you're just not doing anything and neither is he?
No, he's working now. I just got out of jail January 11th.
For what?
For my probation was revocated.
What were you arrested for?
Theft of government property.
What kind of property?
It was Xbox.
Grandson spends a lot of time with you?
Correct.
Good. You live close by?
Yes.
Judging for the plaintiff for the amount of $5,000. That's all. Step
Thank
out.
you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was fair. The car will be paid off and everything will be taken care of.
She got what she wanted, and I can't believe she did it to me.
Because I was being sued and it was going to hurt my credit.
She brought me to court and hid this.
That she realizes that you just can't not pay for something that you agree to.
Make arrangements, make payment arrangements with her.
And that she'll go on with her life and do the right thing.
She's disappointed in me.
I was slightly disappointed in her.
Because I was doing the right thing and then stopped.
I'm willing to forgive her and move on with our lives.
When things go bad in people's lives, you can't help it.
We'll get back together and just have a good, honest relationship.
Psychiatrist Dr. Howard Richmond says publishing consultant Susan Gilbert scammed him on a book deal.
According to your complaint, Dr. Richmond, you retained Miss Gilbert's services because you were interested in publishing a book.
That is correct.
And she had, well, you had heard she had had some expertise in assisting people to get their works published. You gave her approximately $2,500, and it is your claim that she really defrauded you because she was not working solely in your best interest. You want not only your money back, but you want twice that amount of money as punitive damages. So I have a few questions before we get into this. Had you written a book?
Yes, I did.
And the subject?
It was called The Healing Field, a story about myself, a psychiatrist, and one of my patients who was dying from anorexia. Only when I got out of the box of my traditional training did my patient start to heal.
How long did it take you to do the book?
About 5 years.
And what brought you to Miss Gilbert?
I was at a publishing event in 2003, and the defendant was one of many experts that presented that day, and she said that she could help me get my book published.
How much was Miss Gilbert's fee?
Her fee was $150 for an hour of coaching over the phone.
And what kind of things did she coach you about?
Well, she talked about having a branding, who I was going to. Told me about this fantastic opportunity to be a co-author in a book along with big names such as Dr. Phil, Deepak Chopra, and Wayne Dyer. And I would need to pay $5,000 to, under a tight deadline, write a chapter in the book. So then in October of 2004, I wrote a check for $5,000, sent it to the publisher, Linda, and then 2 weeks later...
The publisher is not Linda. What's the name of the publisher of this book?
Her name is Linda, and her corporate
company, yeah,
logo is Mentors Publishing House.
Never heard of them.
Neither had I.
So what'd you write him a check for $5,000 for, Dr. Richmond?
Well, at the time...
Doctors are notoriously bad businessmen, sir.
It was a good sale to be associated with these big-name authors.
Yeah, but you got to do your own due diligence, Dr. Richmond. You know, if somebody said, I'm doing an ensemble work with Dr. Phil and some other notable people, you would think that this ensemble work would be published by somebody that you would heard of.
Well, there was 2 other books, so they had a track record of putting out 2 books previously. Correct.
In how many years?
I'm not sure exactly.
So in their whole history as a publishing house, all you knew of was 2 books they had published?
Correct. But there were celebrities in the first 2 editions.
Like who?
Zig Ziglar.
I never heard of Zig Ziglar.
Donald Trump is in the 3rd edition. So it sounded really good.
What 3rd edition?
Well, this book that I was enticed to be a part of.
Has it been published?
It just came out in the last couple of weeks.
Is that right?
Yes. In fact, Judge Judy, would you like a copy of it? I've autographed
I'd just like to
one
look
for
at it.
you.
I don't want a copy. I have enough to read. By the way, in case you want a picture of Zig Ziglar, this is what he looks like.
That's him.
All right, so you sent $5,000 into this publisher. Go ahead, what happened?
I wrote the chapter. Then in late January, early February 2005, there were some changes in the publication and a delay in when the book was coming out. I started to get uncomfortable with the changes that were happening.
Like what changes?
Instead of 40 authors, there was going to be 70 authors. Chuck Norris was going to be on the cover of the book. He's not in alignment with the work that I do. And then on February 7th, I discovered that the defendant, my coach, was not only getting compensation from me, but also from Linda, the publisher. In exchange for bringing people in, she would get to write the foreword and have her picture on the cover of the book. And that was in an email that I only discovered February 7th. She never disclosed this to me. I was shocked. My confidence in her began to evaporate.
Did you have to pay $5,000 to get into this book?
I did not.
And the reason you didn't have to pay $5,000 to get into this book is because you brought other clients into the book?
Right. The
Is that,
relationship.
just a second.
Yes.
My questions, your answers. Did you at any time tell Dr. Richmond that you were involved as a co-author in this project, but that you were being compensated in part for bringing in other prospective authors?
Yes.
When did you tell him that?
At the inception of the discussion of whether he would come in or not, because one of the questions that they had was whose picture would be on the front, and at that time the publisher had offered that my picture would be in that larger space there on the cover.
That doesn't answer my question. You can write a chapter, but if everybody who's writing a chapter pays $5,000 for your bringing in other authors, you were getting a free ride. My question is, did you tell that to Dr. Richmond?
I did not state it in those words.
Well, those are the words that you should have used, Ms. Gilbert.
If I could clarify one thing for Judge Judy, though, the $5,000 fee is not a fee. He made a commitment to purchase 1,000 copies.
There's no difference between buying 1,000 copies and paying $5,000 to get in, because it all goes to the publisher. They are at least assured of 1,000 copies, and if they get 70 authors to each contribute $5,000, that means that they have guaranteed themselves 70,000 copies of the book being sold, which guarantees them a spot on some list that says we've already sold 70,000 copies, and therefore you should read this book. That's sort of a no-brainer.
It's
right,
marketing.
Ms. Gilbert?
Absolutely, it's marketing.
So that wasn't explained to him, that the $5,000 is that you can get 1,000 copies of this book. You don't have 1,000 friends. What you're going to do is you're going to take pieces of your library. You put 500 in one house and 500 in another house, and some in the kitchen and some in the living room. I've written books, I know. I got stacks of them all over my house. Some were sold, some didn't. Listen to me. You had an obligation to tell him that you were also representing other people who were going to be contributing to this book, and in exchange for your cooperation in securing other people, which the publisher wanted, because I guarantee you, Dr. Phil didn't have to pay $5,000 to get into the book. Chuck Norris didn't have to pay $5,000 to get into the book. Nice-looking man. They don't know who he is. You got to pay the $5,000. It's marketing.
It's marketing, and that's the point. All of the coaching calls that
you
Howard
have
and I had
to tell
done.
him. Can I say this for a second, Bert? Sure. Don't get too involved with it. Let's see. We have people like Dan Kennedy, Cynthia Bull, Brian Tracy, Carol Ann Hamilton. How many people did you represent here, Miss Gilbert?
I represented 4 people.
And did each of those people pay $5,000?
Yes, they did.
Okay, because they were not celebrities.
Absolutely.
Did each of those other 4 people know about the other people?
I did not spell out everything as it's coming out in this courtroom, but Howard knew that I was inviting him in and I was inviting other people to participate, and I explained how it worked.
You should have explained the whole piece to him. You left out some very important things.
That doesn't take away the benefit that he would have received and all the things that we discussed.
He's not a child, Miss Gilbert.
You're right.
He's not a child. So what you're supposed to do is, if he is retaining you in what I consider an almost quasi-fiduciary relationship, you don't treat him like a child. You give him all the facts, and then let him make a judgment. Now, it might have been a wrong judgment for him not to participate in this book. He might have gotten his name in print, so at least he was a published author. But your responsibility to your client, if he was your primary client, was to make sure that he had all the facts. Now, did you get your book published?
Not yet.
You got a possibility?
Of course.
Good. Now, I don't necessarily think Miss Gilbert is dishonest. I think that she didn't realize who her master was. Her master was the person who had hired her to help him publish his book. Quite honestly, Dr. Richmond, in all probability, had you not gotten your money back, because you got your $5,000 back.
No, I did not.
You did not?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Well, as a matter of fact, when I decided to withdraw from the project and ask the publisher for my money back, on February 25th, the publisher agreed to send me the check that day. I waited. No check. Then I discover my coach, my agent, told her directly not to give me my money back.
How do you know that?
I heard it verbally from the defendant, and also I have an email from the publisher that confirms the conversation.
What did you say to the publisher?
I don't know what was written there.
I'm not asking you what was written here. I know what was written here. I'm asking you what you said to the publisher that resulted in the publisher not sending him back his check.
I care very deeply, even though it doesn't appear that it's coming out that way. I care about my coaching clients.
I asked you what you told the publisher.
That I wanted to speak with Howard before he withdrew because I felt he was making a really bad business decision, that everything that he and I had been working towards for months would be helpful in this book release. And so I wanted an opportunity to speak with him.
Well, did you speak to him?
I did, and he still withdrew.
Just a second. Did you then call back the publisher and say?
Multiple times.
And say, give him back his check?
Absolutely. Multiple times I have requested, and I thought that she would. But Dr. Richmond has taken him to court.
But this says, yes, I held off sending the check because of my conversation with Susan.
Which is what I said, that I wanted to speak with Howard.
So you never got your money back?
No, Your Honor.
He took them to court and won a judgment.
Did you get paid?
No.
When did you get your judgment?
June 6th, and I have a copy of that if you would like to see it.
I would.
It's June 1st.
You have any idea why you haven't gotten your money?
Lack of integrity.
Have you called them?
Yes.
And what have they said?
No response. Tried to get the money from the bank account. No money there. Cat and mouse game.
Her client has said, I want my money back. The people are ready to send you your check. You say, don't send him his check. I want to talk to him. That's not up to you.
If he's hired me as his coach and I feel that he's making a mistake, I'd like to speak with him before that happens.
You had no business speaking to the publisher about him. You don't know who your master is in this situation. You took money from him. You are his advocate.
As I was advocating for him that this was a good project.
He's not a baby. It's up to him to make a judgment as to whether or not he believes that he wants to go forward with this project. You know, Chuck Norris is a very nice man. He says, I don't want to be in a book with Chuck Norris on the cover. I don't know why. I've met Chuck Norris, got a lovely man, he's got a lovely wife. Their philosophies may be inconsistent. Who knows? That's not up to you. That's up to him. How much did he pay you?
How much did he pay me?
Yeah.
A total of $2,500 over 6 months for 17 sessions. And when I begin to work with someone, Judge
So
Judy,
far, he's out $5,000 plus another $2,500, and he doesn't have a book. And the $5,000 of that $7,500, put it down. $5,000, Miss Gilbert, out of the $7,500 is because of you. Sounds to me like better practice would be not to come in front of 10 million people and tell your story, but to give him back his $2,500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
R-A-U-J-O.
Mr. Arajo.
There you go.
Close enough. Are you the owner of A-Plus Limousine?
I'm part owner, ma'am.
How long have you been in business?
5 years.
How many limousines do you have?
3.
Do you drive as well?
Yes.
In the 5 years that you've had your business, sir, how many times have you sued clients?
This is first time.
Mr. Rury leased one of your cars for an evening. He wanted to celebrate his...
birthday.
A national holiday. What national holiday was it, Mr. Rury?
It was my 35th.
You look older. And who are you celebrating with, sir?
Friends, family.
How many friends and how many family?
About 40 or so.
And how many people did you put in this limousine?
About 20 at a time.
What do you mean 20 at a time?
They picked up from one location, dropped us off, went back, picked up another group.
Were you driving that night?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
Tell me what kind of damage you allege that they caused your vehicle.
They used this fun streamer can, and it was all over the car. Normally, it's not a problem to get off the carpets, the door paneling, and that such things. But on vinyl, it adheres to it and it crusts up and it doesn't come off.
Well, what do you mean normally it's not a problem? I don't understand that, sir.
Off of carpeting and door panels, you just peel it right off. It comes right off like hair. But on the vinyl itself, it actually sticks to it and it crusts up and it doesn't come off. And we needed to get it detailed, and it took about 5 hours of cleaning to finally get most of it off. But it still left stains. I have some pictures to show if you...
Now, you were driving that night.
Yes, I was.
By the way, I read your answer. You don't deny that you bought this stuff and you used it in the car.
Yes.
Could you explain to me, just for my own edification, why would a 35-year-old man do that?
It's fun, and if you had silly string shot at you, it's kind of exciting, I guess, so it made it fun.
I have a couple of my sons visiting me today, you know, and they're about your age. One of them's a couple of years older, but we won't go there. And I cannot imagine them renting a limousine with their friends and using silly string. Mr. Rury. I mean, I can imagine them going from one place to another, I can imagine them having some beers in the back of a car, but I can't imagine them using silly string, this stuff. I mean, my grandchildren use that.
We like to have fun.
If you consider that fun. So where were you shooting it?
Oh, at each other, you know, typically.
Were you making a big mess?
There was a mess when it was over, yes.
Well, who was supposed to clean up that mess?
Well, Gennaro?
Oh, Mr. Rury, no, I'm being serious with you, sir. You commissioned A1 Limousine to take you and friends from one place to another. Where did it say that they provided domestic services for you to clean up after your crap?
Well, we've rented limos
Show me.
many times.
Show me.
We've never cleaned up after ourselves any cars we've ever rented. That's why we pay $800 to rent a car.
Your Honor, if I may?
Yes.
Normally, we clean up beer bottles, bottle caps, empty cans, napkins. That kind of stuff is not a problem. We never have the client clean up after himself. That's normal.
Well, that's nice of you, because they're drinking a beer, they leave it in the car.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that your limousine has places for drinks.
Yes.
Because that's what people do in limousines.
Yes.
You know, they have a drink. That's why they hire a limousine sometimes, so that they can get from one place to another drunk. And they're not driving. Well, that's what people do. They want to act like idiots, so they hire somebody else to drive so that they can be safe. That's reasonable. What I don't understand, Mr. Rury, is this stuff and being a real pig and expecting somebody else to clean up after you.
Well, we've rented limos in the past. We've used it in the past. We've never had anybody charge us any cleaning fee, certainly not the amount he's trying to charge, $350 for somebody to clean it. I had asked for pictures of, you know, the stuff that he couldn't get cleaned off several times.
Do you have those?
I actually took pictures before the cleanup.
Well, let me see what it looks like.
These are some pictures before. After that, I did inform Mr. Rury that he was more than welcome to come by before Thursday. This happened on Saturday night, and Thursday we had another service booked already. So I emailed him and told him that he was more than welcome to come by and look at it for himself before it was cleaned, but I really didn't have the time to be running back and forth taking pictures for his benefit.
Is that right, Mr. Rury?
I emailed him requesting pictures after he sent me those pictures of the stuff that didn't get cleaned up. I asked to come see the limo as well.
Do you have a bill for the detailing service?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
I'd like to see it. Who detailed for you?
It's a car wash in San Diego.
Is this a Hummer?
It's a Hummer limousine, yes, ma'am.
H2 limousine.
Yes.
Interior detailed, foreign compound removal, $345.
On Wednesday the 9th, he said that I could come over by Thursday to come take a look at the car.
Yes.
He emailed me again on Wednesday night saying that he'd got the car cleaned, and he booked it again, so I couldn't come see it because it was already clean. So, to me...
I have to take his word for it that it was a mess.
No, I'm sure it was a mess, but it was something that just back and dried up. We had the stuff all over our car, inside our house. I mean, it's like paper. It doesn't stain.
Your Honor, the can does say, do not spray on vinyl as it will leave a stain on certain types of vinyl.
My question to you, sir, is you saw them using this.
No, I did not, ma'am.
You didn't?
No, there's a partition between the driver and the cab in the back. And normally what will happen is when I pick someone up and I...
No, don't tell me what normally. So you're telling me you didn't see this disaster until they left the cab?
Until they were exiting the vehicle.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What did you find when you took apart the radio?
There was silly string mounted onto the laser.
Well, that's a mystery. I mean...
You think that I'm smart enough to unravel this mystery?
And later today...
So not only did you sell the car to a minor, you sold it and took advantage of him.
Well, I made a lot of repairs and
I don't care whether you made a lot of repairs or whether you outfitted the car for the Queen of England.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Limo company owner Genaro Araujo says former client Darren Rury ruined the interior of his limo with silly string.
Who was this?
That is the person that installed the new stereo, because also, I'm not sure how, but silly string got inside the stereo. We believe it was either on a CD that they loaded and it damaged the stereo also, so that's part of what we're suing for also. We had to replace it. He's the gentleman, works for Big Boy Car Audio in San Diego. He's the one that installed this new stereo.
Tell me your name, sir.
David Martinez.
Mr. Martinez, are you related to the plaintiff in any way?
No, I am not.
Have you had business dealings with him before?
Yes, I have.
How many times have you done jobs for the plaintiff?
Just 2 times.
Okay, and the second time had to do with this audio system?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about what you found.
I pulled the deck out, which is the radio. It was...
Why did you bring the car and tape to check out the radio?
Because the radio part works on it, the AM/FM radio part, but when you try and load a CD, it spits it back out.
Okay, so it wasn't working?
It wasn't working properly, no.
Had it been working prior to Mr. Rury and company occupying the Hummer?
Yes, actually, when they got on, his girlfriend Bambi brought along some CDs, and I showed her how to use it.
Is that right, Bambi?
Yes.
And it worked fine?
It worked fine.
Is that your real name?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, and at the end of the night, when I picked up the final group that was going to be leaving, Bambi and Darren were in the group, and I was holding their CDs for them so they wouldn't get lost. So she asked for them back. When I gave it to her, she went in the back and she told me there was a problem. And I thought she just didn't know how to use it, so I went back to show her again, and that's when I noticed you put it in, it spit it back out, put it in, throw it back out, and it wouldn't play properly.
Got it. Is that right, Bambi?
That's right.
Good. So far, she's a wonderful witness for you. What did you find when you took apart the radio?
There was silly string mounted onto the laser, so it wasn't reading.
Darren, how do you think that happened?
Well, that's a mystery. I mean...
Just a second. That's a mystery. You think that I'm smart enough to unravel this mystery?
You probably are, but the CD player was working fine when we got out of the car, we went into a club, we gave him the CDs so nobody would use it or anything.
Listen to me. Bambi said it wasn't working.
It was working
prior
to it.
Prior.
And then we got out of the club, we get the CDs back,
Listen
and
to me.
they don't
Listen to
load.
me, Darren.
Sure.
I want you to try to put on your thinking cap, Darren. You and Bambi got into the car, and she put in the CDs, and they worked just fine. At the end of the evening, this is the fact, the CD wasn't working. Right, Bambi?
When we got back into the car.
It wasn't working.
We went to put a CD back in there.
At the end of the evening,
Right.
it wasn't working.
Right.
Mr.
Martinez
says that what he found in the CD changer was...
silly string.
Silly string. Figure that out, Darren.
We didn't have silly string on our CDs.
No,
to
but
me,
maybe somebody...
it's convenient excuse, but I don't think so.
Listen to me. Everybody was drinking. Looks to me as if a lot of people were drinking. Maybe somebody thought it'd be funny to put silly string in the stereo system. You have something you want me to look at, Darren? You got a lot of...
No, I have a lot of photographs of our mess, but...
Of your what?
Of our mess in the car that he had sent us, but...
Oh,
But he never showed me any of the silly string that was inside the stereo. So, no.
I have to believe Mr. Martinez. I want you, Darren, I want you to look at Mr. Martinez. You think Mr. Martinez is lying about what he found in the stereo?
I don't know.
Darren.
Probably.
Darren, and you were 3 sheets to the wind, and probably so was Miss Bambi. How much did you charge him for fixing the stereo?
I charged him $45 to remove the stereo and install another one because it couldn't be repaired. We had to replace the laser, and it's going to cost more than what the stereo costed.
So how much was it?
We actually tried to get the same stereo over the internet, but it's a discontinued model, so we ended up buying a different one that costs $168.95 plus the installation fee.
Well, that's all together, that's $603. That's with the detailing and his bill and the bill for the new stereo. So explain to me, sir, why you're suing for $1,158.
Because even after it was cleaned off, it did leave a stain like the can says it would. I have some pictures of that, if you'd like to see them. And
I didn't think you had pictures of that, the stain.
I did.
Oh, let me see.
Actually, there's a few pictures. Some of these might be repeats, but it didn't come off completely. It left residue. And the only way to fix that is to have it upholstered again, and I have an estimate for that also.
Oh. That's a mess that you made, sir. Did you take a look?
No, he wouldn't give me those pictures.
Well, I'm going to give you the picture, sir. Here you go.
And if you actually total up... Sorry, ma'am.
If you actually total up, it's more than what you're suing for.
Correct.
You see, Darren, look at me, Darren, you're not a bad guy. You know, sometimes I have bad guys, and sometimes I have just guys that are not bad, but just limited. You're not one of the bad guys.
Limo company owner Genaro Araujo says former client Darren Ruri ruined the interior of his limo with silly string.
I'm giving you as a given that you and your guests caused this damage to the vinyl, that you and your guests caused another CD changer to have to be installed, that you and your guests caused the car to have to be detailed after you finished with your night of partying. I want you to accept that as a given. Whose responsibility do you think it is?
Well, I hate to say it's mine, but if I have to.
See, I knew you weren't a bad guy. Got a nice smile. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,100. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Pardon the excuse. Can I step out?
He approached me saying that he had my credit card and he was going to charge me $350, so that got my attention.
I was actually amazed at how dirty it actually was. I never expected to see something like that.
People were celebrating and shot the strings, and then from
Charlene Jurgen says ex-boyfriend Colin Hager owes for a burglary, an assault, and a loan for bail.
All right, Ms. Jurgens, you and the defendant used to have a romantic relationship, and according to your complaint, something happened a year ago that caused all kinds of problems. There was a freeway altercation between the two of you. You claim he assaulted you, then he was arrested. Then you decided that you would help him out by bailing him out. You obligated yourself to a bail bondsman. You claim he owes you money for that. You claim he owes you money for the assault. You claim he owes you money for going into your apartment at some time subsequent to this altercation and ruining your property. Mr. Hager has a whole different interpretation of what happened on the freeway about a year ago. He says that you actually stole money from him, that you're not obligated to the bail bondsman. He's obligated to the bail bondsman. He's going to have an opportunity to tell me, but you're no longer in love?
No.
Absolutely not. You don't see each other anymore?
No way.
No. Perfect. So, tell me what happened a year ago, Ms. Jurgens.
I was in a violent relationship, so I moved out of my county to a different county, and he followed me down there. He learned where I lived.
Look at me. Don't look down there.
And he showed up and broke into my bathroom window. And he...
Were you home during all this time?
No, I was not home.
Just a second. You have any proof that he burglarized your house?
No. I have a police report of the robbery.
That you reported?
Yes, I did report it.
I can make a report. I can make a report that he burglarized my house.
He admitted he went through my bathroom window on the police report.
What date?
On November 25th of 2004, he admitted on his police report to the police in San Diego that he went through my bathroom window.
Okay, let me see that.
Didn't know.
Because November 25th, 2004 is the same day as this freeway altercation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see the report where he admits that.
I never even spoke to the police.
Shh. Just a second. Would you have her point out where he says window? Just circle it. Circle where he admits to the police that he went into your bathroom window.
He returned and climbed through my bathroom window.
That's you telling the police. You said he admitted to the police that he went through my bathroom window. I said, show me in the report.
Perhaps he admitted it to me.
All right. Would you get to the freeway, please? What happened on the freeway?
Well, I left my home because I didn't want any problems at my home. So I got in my car and I was traveling to my friend's house, and his car chased me, and I thought I should go right to the police department. And he followed me, and then he ran me off the road in front of an office, and the lady came out and dialed 911.
Keep going.
I couldn't call 911 because he was reaching in my window to steal my cell phone.
Keep going.
He hit my rental-car, and then he sped off.
Keep going.
So basically, that's hit and run. The police arrived, took my statement, and they went to track him for the robbery and the damages to the car.
Keep going.
They found him, and they arrested him. He said he had a drink and a lost phone, and he was crying and upset.
Let's get to the bail, Miss Juergens, please.
He was arrested in San Diego. He knew my home phone number, so he called collect, and he promised to pay for those collect calls.
Just a second. He called collect, and the operator said, I have Mr. Hager on the phone, and you said, I'll accept the charges.
Not the first time.
I don't care if it's the first time or the 100th time.
Eventually, I took the call.
And what happened when you took the call?
He was upset and crying and promising me that he would quit using drugs and he would go to AA and never drink again. Please help me get out. My family won't help me. My sister won't bail me out. Only you can help me out.
So?
I hung up on him and I called my lawyer.
About what?
I said, my ex-boyfriend was arrested and he's asking me to bail him out. And my attorney said, well, that's a great idea because then you can bring him to us and we can get a retainer. So bail him out, sign for his release.
You think I believe that? You think I believe what you just told me? You think Bird believes what you just told me? That you're calling your lawyer and you said, my ex-boyfriend who beat me up, who I moved from one county to another county to get away from, just called me up to bail him out of jail because after he burglarized my house, assaulted me, chased me down the freeway, damaged my rental car, tried to steal my cell phone. After all of that, wants me to bail him out. And your lawyer said to you, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't you do that and we can get a retainer from him and then we'll all be one happy family. So you went and bailed him out and put down with the bail bondsman how much?
I didn't put any monies down. I just signed for his release as my attorney told me to do so.
So they let him out because you promised to pay?
He promised.
So what are you suing him for bail for?
I have a promissory note that he promised to pay and he's never paid.
Well, what does that have to do with you? If you just said you're not obligated to pay the bail, what is the promise? You're suing on behalf of the bail bondsman?
The bail bondsman is suing me for the amount of $2,500 for
Show me that the bail bondsman is suing you. Well, they're not suing you. They said if this matter is not resolved, they're going to send this to a collection agency. Tell them to sue you. All right. Tell me this story about what happened, Miss Juergens, when you signed him out and took him to your lawyer. Tell me what happened.
My lawyers had him sign a retainer and they made $8,000 off of him.
Yes.
Then they called him and said, why haven't you paid that bail bond? It's going to collections. Pay it. And he promised.
Just a minute. Why would you take him to your lawyer? This man who you fled from one county to another to get away from, who just burglarized your house, assaulted you in your home, battered your car, almost killed you on a freeway, why would you take him to your lawyer?
To get him out of my county of San Diego and put him back in Orange County and let my lawyers handle it.
How many lawyers are there in Orange County?
About 1 million.
Right. And according to you, we paid your lawyer $8,000. I guarantee you, another half dozen of the million lawyers in Orange County would have taken the case for $8,000. So why you chose to take him to your lawyer? The whole story is so bizarre. And if the story is so bizarre, and if it doesn't make sense, it didn't happen that way. All right, Mr. Hager, I've listened to the fairy tale on this side. You want to tell me your side of this fairy tale?
What really happened was she took off with my phone after coming to my hotel room.
Where was your hotel?
San Diego, Mission Bay.
What were you doing?
They're like getting ready to go to SeaWorld.
You were getting ready to go to SeaWorld?
Yeah.
Who were you going to SeaWorld with?
I was going to go to SeaWorld with my daughter.
Was your daughter with you?
No, she wasn't at the time.
Where does she live?
She lives down in Costa Mesa.
Listen, Mr. Hager,
Yeah.
you're always going to get tripped up on a little detail.
Yeah.
Because they make up a story as they're going. Do you understand?
Oh, I'm not making it up.
Oh. What were you doing in a hotel room, and what was she doing in your hotel room while you're getting ready to take your daughter to see the sea lions?
My daughter wasn't with me at the time. She was in Oceanside visiting her cousins. Charlene came down there because she had to see me.
Just a second. How did she know you were there, sir?
She called me.
On your cell phone?
Yeah.
Okay. And you told her, I'm here. Did you tell her before or after you arrived?
After I arrived, I believe.
And she came to your hotel?
Yeah.
What's the name of the hotel?
I think it was the Hilton.
Paid by credit card or cash?
Credit card, I believe.
And you registered there in your own name?
Yes, yes.
Why do you hesitate?
Well, I have trouble with remembering details. Yes.
Well, I mean, it would be a simple thing. Somebody said, did you register there in your own name? I'd say, of course.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, Do you know what I'm saying, Mr.
Yeah,
Hager?
I know what you're saying, yeah.
It's the little details that are going to trip you up if I don't get an accurate story from you.
Okay.
Or as close to accurate in this fantasy that I want to get.
All right.
So she came to your hotel.
Yes.
For what purpose?
To talk.
About what?
About a relationship, and also to try and talk me into backing off on some of the accusations and charges I had against her.
For what?
Battery, robbery, all kinds of stuff.
Were there criminal charges pending against her at the time?
Yes.
Is that true, Ms. Juergens?
1, assault. Robbery is false.
So at the time you went to his hotel, there was a current criminal action pending against you?
Yes.
Well, at least I got you in his hotel. That's different from the bathroom in your house. Now, according to you, she left your hotel with your cell phone. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that's why you followed her on the freeway.
Yes.
Did you pay the bail bondsman, sir?
Yes, I paid him everything up to about $2,500.
Did you pay her lawyer any money?
Yeah, and quite a lot of money. In fact, I paid her bill for the lawyer, too.
You did?
Oh, yeah, I have the receipt right here.
How much did you pay her lawyer?
$1,250 on one count, and then I paid $2,500 on another count.
What made you so magnanimous?
Well, you know, she kept telling me that we could work things out, and she loved me and stuff like that.
Were those criminal charges subsequently dropped, Ms. Juergens?
No, they weren't.
Did that case go to trial?
It did not. I changed my not guilty plea.
To a guilty plea?
Yeah, after 11 months.
What was your sentence?
Time served.
How long had you been incarcerated?
48 days.
What was the nature of the assault that you pled guilty to?
He alleged that I scratched him and assaulted him and battered him.
Is that right, Mr. Hager?
Yeah, I have the report with the 5 stitches that I had, if you'd like to see that.
I would. So I am correct in the time sequence in this case.
Right.
Your allegations, Ms. Juergens, that he assaulted you after he crawled through the bathroom window, and that's when you took off down the freeway. That police report was made after you were under indictment for assault. Is that right?
I was fighting my alleged charge.
Correct. Well, the alleged charge. It's no longer an alleged charge. It's a conviction.
Now it is.
How come you didn't tell me you were in his hotel room until I got the information a different way?
You didn't ask, and He asked me to go. He invited me.
This is the same man, Miss Juergens, who you fled from one county to another to escape. You went to his hotel room alone? Goodbye, Miss Juergens. I'm totally disinterested in your lawsuit. You have no case. That's all. Goodbye.
25-year-old Jesse Gabori is suing 23-year-old musician Cameron Davenport for the return of his fee to perform at her party. Jesse claims Cameron's music offended her guests.
Mr. Bora, you hired Mr. Davenport as a DJ to play at a party that you were having. What kind of party was it?
I had a cousin who was moving to Portland, Oregon from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We have a pretty large family in Coeur d'Alene, all very close-knit.
So it was a family party?
Yes, that's correct.
Had you ever heard of Mr. Davenport play before?
No, ma'am.
How did you find him?
I was at a coffee shop. I found a flyer that said, you know, Cameron Bamron, original music and DJ services. It showed a picture of a guy with a ukulele on the front.
Okay, so that's how you found him?
That's correct.
Good. And you hired him to play at a party. You paid him in advance, $500?
Yes, ma'am.
And he came to the party. He played for a couple of minutes. He was told to leave.
That's correct.
Because you didn't like his music, and you want your money back.
That's correct.
Mr. Davenport says he came, he played his music. He was totally prepared to comply with the terms of your contract. You told him to leave. He's not giving you any money back. Okay, so on what date did you see his flyer, and on what date did you call him?
July 10th is the date that I was preparing all of the arrangements for the party.
And what day was the party?
The 13th of July.
So you only had 3 days to get somebody?
That's correct.
So you called Mr. Davenport from the flyer. And what did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
I asked if he would be available to do a 5-hour set on the 13th. The party started around 7 p.m. He said that he was available. I asked what type of original music he played. He said experimental. In my experience, experimental doesn't generally mean offensive or explicit.
Don't tell me what your experience is, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm asking you what you said to him and what he said to you.
He asked me if any children would be present, and I said no, older people, adults.
Okay.
And that was pretty much the end of the conversation. I told him where to show up and when. I was in a huge hurry, so I just kind of pushed forward with it.
So he came, and?
On the day of the party, he arrived, had his sound equipment set up. Everything seemed to be going well. That was the first time I had actually spoken with him in person. He seemed like a, nice guy. Got up on stage, and it was the first song that he sang that really set everyone off. I have a pretty conservative family. It was a large party. I had a lot of grandmas, grandpas, aunts, uncles,
So it was more experimental than you were used to?
The first lyric of the first song was what really set it off.
Okay. It was not what you expected?
That's correct.
Okay, so what did you do?
I immediately, after about halfway through the first song, I was bombarded with my family members coming up angrily, my friends, family, asking me if it was a joke.
Okay, fine. So?
I retreated to the back of the theater. I informed one of my cousins that he needed to ask Cameron to leave.
Oh, well, and that's what they did. They asked him to leave.
That's
right.
Correct.
So why do you think you're entitled to any money back?
Because he misrepresented himself on the telephone to me.
No, he didn't at all. No, he did not at all.
Never at any time did he mention that his lyrics were explicit or offensive in any manner.
Did you ask? You said, what kind of music to you? I listened very carefully. You say original music, experimental. According to you, you said, in my opinion, experimental meant, I said, I'm not interested in your opinion. What you do when you hire somebody is you enter into a contract. And especially if the end of one song and you tell somebody to go tell him to leave, instead of saying to him, listen, this is not the kind of music that we want played here. Could you please play something else, and give him the option, just a second, give him the option of saying to you, this is the only kind of music I have. This is the only kind of music I do. But according to you, I listened very carefully. You said you told one of your cousins to go out and tell him to leave, which he did. Did he go get your money back?
Well, he successfully, in under 5 minutes, offended pretty much everyone at the party.
You should have planned better. Should have planned better. What is offensive to some people is not offensive to others. I think that he was very honest with you when you called him, and he said, are there going to be any children at the party? That would have been a clue to a normal person. Okay, now, if I were asked, are there going to be any children at the party? I would say, there aren't going to be children, but there are a lot of older people who have the ears of a child, and if there's going to be any music there that's going to be offensive, you don't want that kind of music.
A few curse words every now and again is a little less offensive than the lyrics that this man used in front of these people.
That is your problem. He did not breach your contract. He showed up, he played his experimental music, which is what he told you he was going to play, and he couldn't book another gig after you fired him. So you have to be more careful.
Your Honor?
What?
I do have a copy of my lyrics to just one of my songs that I do.
I don't do experimental lyrics.
All right.
If it's not Sinatra or Feinstein, I don't do it. Got it?
Okay.
But I think that you were very honest with her. You said, I do original experimental music, and are there going to be any children there? Did you get paid, sir?
Yes.
You worked for 20 minutes?
Well, I played for about 20 minutes. You know, it takes a good half hour to set up and break everything down.
So by the hour, you made more than you ever made before. Is that right?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's right. You said, sure, you could stay with me for a while until you get relocated. He did. And you claimed that he agreed to pay you rent, $350 a month. In addition, you claimed that he agreed to sell you a used car that he had. You paid him for the car, and one day you came home and you find the car that you had paid for is gone, along with Mr. Strickland and his month's rent. Mr. Strickland says, A, you must be crazy, because he never sold you his car, and B, he never said that he was going to pay you rent. He didn't even have a room. He stayed on the sofa. Mr. Strickland, when did you move into Miss Baca's apartment?
It might have been July, middle of July.
July 14th.
And how did that come about, sir?
I called her and asked her if I could come stay there, and she agreed.
Did she ask you why?
Yes.
What did you tell her?
That I was having problems where I was staying at that time.
That was with another girl?
Yes.
When you came over, did you come over with any property?
Yes.
What did you come over with?
Everything I owned.
Where did you put it?
In the garage, mostly.
And you have how many automobiles?
At the moment?
Then, in July of 2006.
One.
What kind of car was it?
97 Ford Thunderbird.
What do you have now?
Nothing at the moment.
What happened to the Thunderbird?
It's a motorcycle.
When?
Last Sunday.
And what happened to the motorcycle?
It is being put together.
Between July and last Sunday, was the 1997 Ford the only vehicle that you had?
Yes.
Do you work, sir? Why do you have to question that? Do you work, Bird?
Yeah, I work.
Well, you know,
Do you work?
Yes.
Do you work? Look how fast.
Well, you know why? Because I thought about the question you asked me right before that, if that was the only vehicle I had, because I also acquired another motorcycle before that.
When?
Beginning of August sometime.
Were you driving around that other motorcycle?
No.
Where was it?
In the garage.
Whose garage?
It is in Rebecca's garage.
When you left in August, did you take that motorcycle with you?
No, it was already in the shop being worked on.
Worked on for?
To get it running. It didn't run when I bought it.
Between the second or third week in August, after you had been with Miss Baca for 3 or 4 weeks, was the motorcycle in the shop?
It was in the shop, yes.
And you were planning on using it?
Eventually. Yeah.
Is not an answer.
Eventually, I don't have a motorcycle license, so eventually, yes, I planned on using it.
Now we'll get to my next question. Are you working?
Yes.
That was quick.
Where do you work?
I work for Cooper Tires.
How close is that to where you're living now with your girlfriend?
25 miles.
How do you get there?
I drive. I drive.
What do you drive?
Right now I'm borrowing a car from my brother.
What kind of car are you borrowing from your brother?
A Chevy something. I don't even know what it is. Yeah. It's a red car.
And you're borrowing that car until?
Until I can get a motorcycle license.
All right, Miss Baca. Now I have identified this personality. Now I'm going to try to identify your personality.
Okay.
You let him move in on July 14th. First mistake.
Yes.
The prior involvement that you had with him did not end well.
No.
It ended with a protective order.
Yes.
So despite the fact that it didn't end well, you allowed him to move in. And he slept on the... Don't look there.
Slept
Look
in my
here.
bed.
What?
He slept in my bed. All of his stuff was in my room, except for some stuff that was in the garage.
Why did you let him move back in with you?
I loved him. He said he quit drinking. He changed. We weren't like in a committed relationship, and it was supposed to be just friends that he was moving in, and he would sleep on the couch. But then with him being there for a night or two, he ended up sleeping in my bed. Not smart, I know.
Tell me about the car.
He found out that I had money in stocks.
How did he find out that you had money?
Because I was telling him that I was going to be buying Sea-Doos at the end of the summer.
CDs?
Sea-Doos.
Sea-Doos?
Yeah, for water.
Well, CDs would have been smart. Sea-Doos are stupid.
Well, that's what he said. They're stupid. You should buy my motorcycle for me. And I was like, no. So he ended up saying that he would sell me his car for the money, which was $2,000, and he would buy the motorcycle that he was talking about previously that he got in August. He got that with my money. And I ended up selling him the car after he begged continuously.
You ended up buying the car, not selling him the car.
Oh, yeah, buying the car. And I didn't want to. I already have a car. I didn't have a purpose for it. But then after looking to see how much the car was actually worth and how much he was willing to sell it to me for, I thought it was a good deal. So I ended up giving him the money for it. And then my witness, Dawn.
Show me that you gave him the money.
The only stuff I have right here is from my UBS Financial, which is the stock company that I withdrew the money.
When did you withdraw the money?
The money was withdrawn and deposited into my bank account on the 27th.
Of what?
Of July. And then I have a bank statement saying that it was deposited and it was taken out the next day.
Taken?
Taken out the next day.
How was it?
In cash.
How much was taken out?
$1,650.
That's a peculiar figure.
Well, because the agreement with the rent was that he would pay $350 a month after staying there for 2 weeks, and then with no problems, he would start paying $350 a month. So at that point, when I gave him the money, it had been about 2 weeks. So the $350 was with the $1,650 to make a total of $2,000.
$2,000. I gotcha. When you lived together previously, were you splitting expenses?
He was paying, I think it was like $200 a month.
When you were living together previously?
Yes.
Was that in the same apartment?
Yes.
Now, what is this witness going to tell me?
Yes, ma'am.
Who are you first?
My name is Don Fry.
Fry?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was actually the one going to be purchasing the car off of her because he was buying the motorcycle for $2,000. So she's like, all right, I'll buy it, and then I'll buy it from her. And so that was the agreement.
Why didn't you buy it directly from him?
Because I didn't have the $2,000 to bring up. I was going to do monthly payments.
To her?
To her.
For how much?
$3,200. So it's $160 a month.
Okay.
I mean, this guy's a convicted felon for stealing from his own job. He got fired for stealing money. Why wouldn't he come on here and lie to steal money from me?
I think that's not relevant in the case.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Where did you think you were coming today, Mr. Strickland, to a tea dance?
I just didn't think that I needed very much evidence here
Mr.
in this
Strickland,
case.
are you serious?
Judy. Rebecca Baca claims ex-boyfriend Micah Strickland owes for rent and for stealing her car. Micah says he never agreed to pay rent and the car belongs to him.
Mr. Strickland, you remember the date that you left?
I don't remember the exact date.
Do you remember when he left?
August 19th.
You were there for 1 month. You moved in on the 14th, you left on the 19th. Did you pay any rent?
No.
Why not?
There was no agreement to pay rent.
You had paid rent previously.
No, I had not.
Previously, when you lived together.
I had not paid rent then either.
Well, what are you, a sponge? Are you a sponge?
No.
Well, you are if you don't pay rent where you live. Everybody pays rent. They pay a mortgage, they pay rent, they pay maintenance, they pay something. You mean except you?
Apparently.
You purchased the other motorcycle on what date in August?
I don't know the exact date.
Do you remember the exact date?
He paid for it on the 28th when I gave him the money.
Do you remember who he purchased it from?
It was a guy named Rick at his work. I went to the bank. I got the money out. I went to his work on his lunch. He got the money out from his bank account, went back. He gave it to the guy, Rick. And then the next day, on Saturday, I borrowed my ex-husband's truck, and we picked the motorcycle up from Rick's house.
I paid $50 for that motorcycle.
I'm sure.
Just a second. You have a receipt?
No, I don't, but it's written on the pink slip that I haven't got around to going down to the DMV with yet.
Well, where is it?
It's at home.
Well, where did you think you were coming today, Mr. Strickland, to a tea dance?
I just didn't think that I needed very much evidence.
Serious with me? That you didn't think you needed any evidence in court?
Well, I just thought it was a pretty cut and dry case, being that it's my car. If I'd actually done something wrong, like I'd be in trouble for stealing. So like, I thought this was a pretty odd case. I'm surprised I'm in court over it.
Well, but Mr. Strickland, you are in court over it, so if you are in court over it, it would seem to me that an intelligent person would bring any evidence that they had to support their position.
Okay.
Not just stand there and say, look at me. What do you think Ms. Baca did with the money that she took out of her bank on the 27th of July?
I don't keep track of her finances. I have no idea what she might have done with it.
And would it be a fair statement that she did accompany you to Rick's house to pick up the motorcycle?
Yes, she did come with me to pick up the motorcycle.
Can I see your bank statement, please?
Yes, I also have an insurance statement saying that I added on the car that I never bought to my insurance policy.
I'd like to see it, please.
She put that on the insurance because she wanted to drive the car and she didn't feel comfortable driving it without insurance.
Why would she want to drive that car when she had her own car?
She drove it a few times.
Oh, you're full of baloney, Mr. Strickland. You're full of baloney. So, okay, Ms. Baca, this is the only problem that you have. What you are suing him for is the Blue Book value of the car, or what you had agreed to sell the car to Mr. Fry. That you cannot recoup from Mr. Strickland.
Okay.
But I believe you, and that's my job to make a judgment as far as who I believe and who I don't. I believe you. I believe your story. It makes sense. It is supported by the documents that I have here, especially the insurance, which indicates that the car was added to your insurance policy, and anybody would be absolutely crazy to add a car to their insurance policy and to pay insurance for a car when they already have a car that they want to drive once or twice. I mean, that would be ridiculous. So I believe you, but you are not entitled to the book value of the car. You are entitled to what you paid for it. And I believe that Mr. Strickland did agree to pay you $350 in rent. You took out the $2,000 from your bank, and the reason you took off the $350 was that you were reducing the amount by the amount of rent that he owed you. So I'm entering a judgment on your behalf in the amount of $2,000. That's it. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He didn't even acknowledge the fact that he did accept the money.
She's just trying to drag me back into court again.
He threatened to kill me the first time that he moved out.
Jail.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McCall versus Wilhelm. Step forward, please.
71-year-old Burbin McCall is suing his former friend, 32-year-old student Sandra Wilhelm, for unpaid loans and the cost of a car. Sandra says Burbin's lawsuit is an attempt to keep her in his life.
Mr. McCall, it is your claim in this complaint that you were romantically involved with the defendant and made a series of loans to her, including a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Then she broke it off, and you want your money back.
Yes, Your Honor.
When and where did you meet Mr. McCall?
I met Sandra at a local pub that we both frequented.
Okay. When?
Sometime in March, Your Honor.
And when did you make this first loan?
Well, the first thing that happened, I had bought a computer, and Sandra agreed to come over and download it for me. Then she'd had an accident, and she had picked up a DUI, and her car was wrecked. So I then called her and asked her if I could be of any help to her. She said, well, my mother's got a car, that 88 Crown Victoria. Her mother was asking $2,300 for the car. I gave Sandra $2,300. We went in. She gave us the title. We then proceeded to go down and get it plated and titled.
Did you expect Miss Wilhelm to pay you back the money?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Did you ever tell her that?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Shh, quiet. When did you tell her that?
I told her that before we bought the car. I said,
What did you say?
I said, if we buy a car, I'll help you get a car. But I said, I want title to that car. She said, well, how am I going to get plates and insurance and the rest of it? Why don't we just purchase a vehicle? You'll have the first lien on the vehicle so that I'm protected.
Well, the truth of the matter is, you really are not terribly protected. All you are, if you had title to the car, is you're exposed in case she has an accident, in case she doesn't get insurance.
Well, she did that.
I know, but that's a problem. Miss Wilhelm, first of all, how old are you?
32.
How old are you, sir?
71.
Okay. Miss Wilhelm, this, whatever kind of relationship you had with the plaintiff was of relatively short duration. I read your answer very clearly, and your answer says that he clearly wanted more from the relationship than you were prepared to give him.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Can I see the title to the car, please?
Yes.
Who has the
have
title?
a certificate of title.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here's a copy of the title.
And I'd like to see the certificate of title.
This is Exhibit B and C showing the registration and the application.
I just want the title to the car.
He has the title.
This is a copy. Who has
Yeah.
the original?
I have the original at home. I just made a copy of it, Your Honor.
Well, that wasn't very smart, sir.
Well, I'm not.
That wasn't very smart because I read the defendant's answer very clearly. She says Bervin's goal was to control me. When I didn't respond to his advances, he became increasingly hostile. Is that true?
That is correct.
It's not true.
Eventually, I told him that he could have the car back because it's not worth the harassment. That's what you wrote. Is that what you wrote?
Yes.
Good. Sign the title over to him. Sign it over. Now.
He has the title.
You're going to sign the copy. We'll conform it. Show where to sign, Bird, would you please? You're getting good at that.
He told me he didn't want the car, Your Honor.
Sign the title over to him.
Signature of seller. And print your name.
Now, give it to him, please. Thank you, Bird. Perfect. Now, let's get to the second part of your lawsuit is you made a series of loans to the defendant. When did they start?
Started after we had purchased the automobile. She just needed money time after time, and I felt like we were committed enough. We'd already committed that we would go to Texas once she got through her ordeal, and that she would move with me, take the kids. She wanted out of Indiana, so did I.
She's 40 years your junior.
Yes, I know, Your Honor.
Very foolish.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very foolish. Do you have a promissory note, sir?
No, Your Honor.
You gave her money for a lawyer?
Yes.
How much money did you give her for a lawyer?
$500.
That's not true.
You gave her money to pay her mortgage?
$500.
Did you ever get a note from her for any of those things?
No, Your Honor. I was too involved.
Well, you were too involved, and that's what you get when you're too involved,
That's
sir.
right.
You don't get paid for that.
That's right.
That's stupidity.
Well, I said that to myself.
Well, if you said it to yourself, unfortunately, you got to listen to me say it to you again.
That's okay.
So this was a lesson that cost you perhaps a couple of $1,000s. Miss Wilhelm says that you never gave her any money, I assume. Is that right?
That's correct.
Never gave you any money?
No.
I don't know whether I believe you that he never gave you any money. I sort of think he probably did. In any event, you knew each other for a total of maybe 8 weeks. In the 8 weeks, the plaintiff is out a substantial amount of money. I can't get you back all the money that you were out, sir, because I really feel as if you didn't have a contract with her with regard to these cash loans that you made to her, cash gifts that you made to her. But clearly, it was your intention to have a hold on the car, which was the largest amount of money that you turned over to the plaintiff, by having your name placed as a lien holder on the car. That is some evidence of a debt. That is why you got your car back. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Rest of your claim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Basically, is trying to make a relationship.
She was claiming what was not true.
I thought them being 40 years my senior that it would be totally harmless.
She was unwilling to settle it outside the court.
He told me he was not interested in the car.
I did have proof that I had interest in the car.
We basically wanted to go ahead and keep that as leverage to keep things ongoing in a manner which I couldn't accept.
All parties in the matter of Oric versus Galvin, step forward, please.
18-year-old Justin Oric is suing his former friend, 19-year-old Drew Galvin, for knocking over his Ninja motorcycle. Drew says the bike was parked in the wrong spot.
Mr. Oric, you were at a party, and the defendant was also at a party, and it is your claim that he damaged your motorcycle, which you had driven to the party. Mr. Galvin says that the motorcycle was, in fact, damaged, but it was your fault because you parked it in the wrong place. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what happened, Mr. Oric.
I got off work about 9 o'clock. I called my friends, and they all said they were over at some girl's house, so I got directions over there. And I pulled up over there.
On your motorcycle?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of motorcycle is it?
It's a 1997 ZX7R Ninja 750.
Sounds very impressive. How much did you pay for it, sir?
About $3,500.
When did you purchase it?
In August of '05.
Okay.
I parked it, and he was sitting on the back of his car, and he was pretty intoxicated, and he let me know that. And
how did he let you know that?
Well, I shook his hand. He's like, "How's it going?" And he's like, I could smell it, and he's like, "I'm pretty drunk," And I was just like, all right, whatever, that's fine. And I walked into the house because that's where pretty much everyone was. And I was sitting in there talking, and everybody heard this crash. I got up and door. I noticed my motorcycle laying on the ground. He was over there trying to pick it up. Helmet was rolling around in a big puddle of water, and trying to figure out what was going on. He said he was sitting on it, and it fell over on one side, and that he went to pick it up, and it fell over the kickstand onto the other side, and that's the crash that we heard. And I just told him I wanted the money and everything. You know, he was intoxicated, so he got all mad and started trying to fight. He's like, I'll fight you over it right now.
What were you going to fight him over, sir?
I never said that, but that's beside the point.
Why were you so drunk?
Actually,
How old are you?
I'm 19 years old. That's
Okay.
what's so silly about
You're
this whole
19,
thing.
just a second.
Okay.
Who do you think is going to be in control of this courtroom, Mr. Galvin, you or me?
You.
Right, so first stand up and take your hands off the table. Very good. You're 19, you can stand on your own 2 feet. That would be perfect. So why would a 19-year-old boy get so drunk? Is there nothing else to do in Arkansas?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, pretty much. There's nothing there. There's cows and, like, people with nothing to do.
So they drink?
The majority of them, yes.
You drink?
On occasions, yes.
Well, but you were drinking on May 6th.
Yeah, I had a little.
Did you go to school? Do you work? What do you do to
Yes,
occupy
ma'am.
yourself?
I
What-
work.
You work for whom?
Razorback Car Wash in Bryant for right now, but
I didn't understand a word you said.
Razorback Car Wash in Bryant.
Razorback Car Wash. Okay, for right now.
Yes, ma'am.
How long?
Actually, whenever I get back, I'm going to be in the heat and air business. I've already got a job.
Great. And you're going to stay in Benton?
Me and my fiance are trying to figure that out now.
You're 19 and you have a fiancé.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have any children, do you?
No, ma'am.
None expected.
No, ma'am. We were pregnant but had a miscarriage.
19 is too young to have any children, sir. You know, you have to find something else to do other than drink and make babies.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, go to the library. Do they have a library in Benton?
Yes, ma'am. There actually is. I've been there quite a few times.
Have you? How
Yes,
many
ma'am.
times?
I'd say whenever I was in school, about almost every other weekend.
You mean when you stopped going to school, you stopped going to the library?
No, ma'am. I started working a lot.
Well, but you still have time. You had time to get drunk, sir. I would suggest you spend your time in the library. You had time to make a baby, right? You have time to go to the library. There are other things that you can do
Yes, ma'am.
other than drinking and procreating at age 19. You can expand your mind, expand your horizons,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Galvin. Now, you don't really want to tell me that it was the bike's fault that it fell down because it was parked in the wrong place, do you?
Well,
you
sort
really
of.
want to tell me that, Mr. Galvin? You look like such a nice young man.
I have
Misguided, perhaps, but a nice young man.
I have pictures of the spot where my car was and his bike right behind it. Like it is a one-person parking spot. But I was on my way around. The car whenever I tripped over it.
Mr. Orick says that when he got to the party, you were sitting outside on your car.
No, actually, I was inside talking to Danielle.
No, you weren't, sir, because you were too drunk to know what in the world you were doing.
Well, I mean, if I was that drunk, how come the cops didn't write me? And in the police report, anywhere it
Why
doesn't say.
would they do that? You weren't driving.
I told him not to.
Shh. You weren't driving. He didn't want to get you into any trouble. That's not my question. You know how much you were drinking. Well, at least at the beginning you knew how much you were drinking. Did you end up staying at the house?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, I did, and my belt was stolen.
Just a second. You ended up staying at the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you sleep?
In the bed with the girl that I was seeing at the time.
This was in May?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it the same girl that you're affianced to now?
No, ma'am. It's not.
So between May of 2006 and now, we have had a new fiancé and an almost baby. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Listen, you paid $3,500 for the bike, according to you, maybe, more than a year ago.
Yes, ma'am.
You want $4,200 to fix it. That's not going to happen. Do you understand?
Can I explain why?
Yeah,
sold
sure.
It? The guy sold it to me for that because he was scared of it. He said he was either going to get put in jail or killed on it. It has always worth of work in it. It's got a crate motor. It's been lowered, you know, custom paint, custom exhaust. It's pretty much a show bike. So it's worth more than $3,500 is what I'm trying to say.
Can I see the estimate to fix it, please?
Yes, ma'am. There's 2 parts estimates and 2 paint estimates in there. There's the damage.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Rorick?
I work for AutoZone, but I'm a full-time college student as well.
Where'd you get the money to buy this?
I worked hard for it. Like I had a dirt bike that I sold for it, and it's hard work.
Oh, it's a beauty.
Thanks.
I mean, I wouldn't get on one of these things. I like to have a whole bunch of steel around me.
Yeah.
There are a lot of crazies on the road.
Yeah, there is.
You know, so I like to be in a Sherman tank when I'm on the road. But I know that a lot of people like these things, including my husband, who lusts after one.
Really?
He'll continue to lust after one. All right. Mr. Galvin, where are you going to be next weekend?
At my house?
No. Where are you going to be next weekend?
The
library.
The library, yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,200. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Like I said, I tripped over it.
I'm pretty sure it's just an accident.
We're still friends as far as I know.
No.
And it is your claim that when he found out that you were involved with his then-girlfriend, he vandalized your car. Mr. Peterson says, I didn't do it.
Right.
When did he vandalize your car, sir?
March 23rd, but it happened, I didn't find out. It happened until the 24th, the following morning.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding him vandalizing your car.
That day we got home from work.
Who's we?
Me and Jennifer. I went to her apartment. It was probably around 11 to 12 that night. When he came, I was inside with her sister watching television. I heard them arguing. The door comes swinging open. I see her flying to the side, and he comes rushing in. And at the time, I'm lying on the ground watching television. They just moved into the apartment, and he runs up with his hands balled in the fist, facial mannerism, just like, you know, very aggressive, and I can tell he wanted, you know, to fight or something like that. So I stood up.
Had you ever seen him before?
No, I never saw him in
Never
my
met.
life.
So you
Never
stood
met
up.
the guy. So, yeah.
And when you stood up, what happened?
Oh, when I stood up, his whole mannerism changed real
Right.
quick. I was like, what's the problem, you know? And at this time, I started taking off my watch, and he looks at me, he's like, oh, I just want to ask you a question. So we walk outside.
What were you taking your watch off for?
Well, you know, I want to know what time it was, man, you know? So,
Why were you taking your watch off?
well, it was a nice watch, and I just didn't want to mess it up. So,
Okay.
yeah. So anyway, he follows me outside, and he asked me, what's the deal between you and Jennifer? And I asked him, I was like, well, do you know who I am? He was like, no. And I was like, well, I don't know you either, and is Jennifer your girlfriend? And he kind of like paused and hesitated. I was like, is Jennifer your girlfriend? And he was like, well, I was like, well, dude, you know, I don't know you don't know me. You have to ask her. And I left him out there, and I went back inside.
Had Jennifer told you she had a boyfriend?
She told me that she broke up with him around December, January. That, like, he was assaultive, would hit her and stuff like that. She just got tired
So
of
she
it.
told you at the time she invited you over that
Yeah,
she didn't have a boyfriend?
Yes. We'd known each other for probably 2 or 3 weeks before I had ever been asked to come over to her house. It had been like a month before I even came over there. I started working where we work at in January.
Now tell me about the vandalism to your car.
Okay, well, after I left him outside, he did come back in again. He came back in and told her that he wanted to grab his stuff. And she was like, well, you don't have anything here, but whatever, take whatever you want and leave. After he went upstairs, taking whatever, he was up there for a while. When she went back up there to start arguing again, I got tired of it, and I got up and I was like, look, is there a problem? And that's when he left. He finally left. And then Jennifer and her sister watched him through the window.
Don't tell me what they saw.
I'm sorry, man.
Jennifer, what did you see?
After he went outside, my sister and I were looking out the window. At that point, I seen him like walk around the car, and it looked like he was just dragging his finger along the sides of the car. And he just walked around the whole vehicle, and then I seen him just walk away and get in his truck and leave.
Did you tell Mr. Ari what you had seen?
No, I didn't tell Sean at that time because I didn't want them to fight any longer. And my little sister was there, and I didn't want her exposed to this. And I knew how upset Sean was about the whole thing, and how much more he would be upset if he knew that Billy was anywhere around his car.
Well, when did he find the damage to his car?
That following morning, ma'am. I
Did
was
you stay
leaving.
over that night?
Yeah, she asked me to, because she said she was scared. So,
And when you went out in the morning, what did you find?
a nice little decoration around my car.
Can I see it, please? You have
Yes, ma'am.
pictures. Let's see. Did you speak to him about it?
Right after we called the cops and Sean and the cops left, I received a phone call from a private number on my cell phone, and it was Billy, and he was asking me, how's your friend's car? How's your friend's car? And saying, like, if I was to say anything, it's going to happen to my car, and that I was his and I would always be his and no one else's. I hung up, and he continued to call me back on private numbers, and I went ahead and called the cops.
Okay, I'll hear you.
On March 23rd, I went over to see Jennifer Gifford, who is now my ex-girlfriend. She was my girlfriend at the time. We talked about our relationship for the simple fact that I had just helped her move into this home. It was actually supposed to be me moving into the home, but it didn't turn out that way as her sister moved in. At that time, we were just discussing our relationship. She asked me what was going on. Asked her if everything was okay between us. Basically, I was expressing, like my love for her. She seemed pretty apprehensive to really speak to me at that point. She seemed just not her usual self. I've dated her for about 3.5 years.
You knew before that things were not right, Mr. Peterson, because you were supposed to, according to you, move into this apartment together. She had been in this apartment for a month, and you weren't living with her. So you knew something wasn't right a month ago.
Well, I have a child.
How old is the child?
3 years old, and that was a complication at hand.
So you knew that things weren't right between the two of you for at least a month.
She actually lived with me in my home, and things were good. We didn't have any complications.
When she moved into her own place and you weren't living with her, you knew that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you go over there for at such a late hour?
She received a diamond ring from me. March, when I went over the 23rd.
When did she receive a diamond ring from you?
Christmas.
Okay.
Okay. When I went over there the 23rd of March, discussing issues in regards to our relationship, this gentleman here, the plaintiff, exited the doorway asking me who I was at that time. Now we got myself, this gentleman, and her outside in a very awkward situation. I asked her who was he. She didn't respond. He asked me who I was, and I told him.
What did you tell him?
I said, I'm her boyfriend. Who are you?
Why you went over there so late, sir?
Well, because usually I stay the night there, and I had stayed the night there like several days prior to this circumstance.
Did you take the engagement ring?
Yes.
Get to what happened when you left.
She actually, during the time that we spoke outside, all three of us, me and him didn't come to any terms of agreement whatsoever. We didn't even discuss anything. I asked her if this was the way it's going to be, if I can get my belongings. She allowed me to enter the house. I went and got all my belongings. I had shoes, pajamas, had the ring. I walked downstairs holding all my belongings. And this gentleman was waiting there by the door. And when I walked by him with my stuff, he basically, quote unquote, said, the next time we meet, he ain't going to be nice. Closing the door at that time, slamming it, saying, it was an indicator like, you're not welcome here. So at that point, I got in my vehicle. I left home. I heard from Mrs. Gifford the next morning. She contacted me. She said, Sean is accusing you of messing up his car. I said, I didn't do anything like that, okay? And you should know me better than that. We were together 3 years. I never did anything like that. So basically, that's how it went. And
what do you think keyed his car?
I don't know. It's a new neighborhood, so I really wasn't sure. Like I said, I'd made sure that, when I moved her in.
Who are you?
Excuse me, I'm Billy's mother. My name is Anna Peterson.
You know anything about this case?
I know some. Jennifer Gifford called me that next day, and she said, I think Billy keyed my friend's car. And I says, why didn't you call us and say, Billy's over here, there's a problem? She had no response. I replied, you know us for 3 years. You know we don't condone any kind of negative behavior. She proceeded to cry and say it wasn't supposed to be like this. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I said, no, Jennifer, you've been in my family for 3.5 years. I've come to love you, and it isn't supposed to be like this. Okay? So prior to that, the day before, she had come to my home with my grandchild. Now, if they're not a couple, what is she doing with my grandbaby? She's come to my home the day prior to this happening, this incident. She has my granddaughter. I sit down and we have a heart-to-heart talk. I said, Jennifer, how are things with you and Billy? She says, we are working things out. I said, are you dating a certain individual? Not this gentleman. She replied, no. So at that point, I didn't feel there was a problem at all because they had still been seeing each other. She had been with us in March.
Jennifer, I have a question for you, dear.
Yes.
You didn't tell this gentleman, uncross your hands. You didn't tell Mr. Ari?
Yes, ma'am.
About what happened that night. He stayed all night.
Correct.
Correct? Now, private number called.
Yes.
And you say you spoke to Mr. Peterson.
Correct.
And then he kept calling. And you kept taking the phone calls, or did you let it go to voicemail?
I took a couple and then I stopped. I called the cops. They came and took a report and went and spoke to him and told him he needed to stop calling me and that if he came back to my house, he would be arrested for trespassing.
Did the police tell you to stop calling her?
Yes. They contacted me through the telephone, and they said that Mrs. Gifford has stated that you and her are not going to be in a relationship anymore, so please do not have any more contact or show up at her home. I said, yes, sir. That's not a problem.
What would make her call the police, Mr. Peterson?
I believe it lays down a foundation in which there's no pertinent evidence in which can be held against me in this predicament. I mean, given the circumstance at hand, I've been accused of vandalizing a car, and she asked me the next morning if I was okay.
Listen to me, Mr. Peterson. There are only two people that could have vandalized that car. One was you, and one was Jennifer. Now, if Jennifer had a sick pathology, she could have said, listen, when he's sleeping, I'm going to go out, I'm going to vandalize his car, I'm going to key his car, and then I'm going to be able to get rid of Mr. Peterson once and for all because he's going to stay away from me. She would have to be pretty nutty to do that. But those are the only two people, in my judgment, who are going to do it. Her sister wasn't going to do it. Her sister doesn't care whether she's seeing you, whether she's seeing him. She doesn't care. I just don't see her doing that, Mr. Peterson.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I told them they could go down there and play with the foosball table, but they were to not touch anything that was marks and to stay away from the motorcycle.
Any of you children touch the motorcycle?
No, ma'am.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sean Ari says his girlfriend's ex, Billy Peterson, vandalized his car by keying it. Billy admits he was angry, but claims he didn't do it.
You certainly had the opportunity to key his car. And after what you discovered that evening when you arrived at her house, there's no question you had the inclination to key his car. You weren't going to fight him because after he stood up, you figured you weren't going to get the best of this deal.
Probably not.
Probably not. So what's the next best thing to a young man's heart is his car. What kind of an estimate did you get to fix your car, sir?
The cheapest one was to cover up just the scratch without painting it, the whole car.
So, Mr. Peterson, in civil cases, courts have to decide, not beyond a reasonable doubt, that would be a criminal case as to whether you were guilty of vandalism, but whether there is more evidence than not, by a preponderance of the evidence, more evidence than not, as to whether or not I believe you keyed his car. Mr. Peterson, I believe you keyed his car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,200. That's all.
Thank you,
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When you date someone for a while, they may end up cheating on you. Basically what happened to me, and they kind of got together and orchestrated the plan.
We didn't start dating until just recently, so, and that happened in March.
He was threatening me and making it a jokingly manner of how my friend's car was.
She got caught, and now she don't know what to do about it.
Where I'm from, we don't scratch guys' cars, so, and me and him aren't from the same town.
I'm just glad it's done and over with, and we don't have to deal with him anymore.
Like I said, it just goes to show, be careful who you date.
21-year-old Dora Spicer and her mother, Brenda Waters, are suing the father of Dora's children, Leonard Kiwi, for a loan to get his car fixed, the return of belongings, and pain and suffering.
Who's Miss Waters? Miss Spicer, this is your former boyfriend, and you have 2 children with him. Is that right?
Yes.
How long have you been together?
We were together a little over 5 years.
How old are you now?
21.
And how old are you?
24.
So you were 19, you were a baby,
I was 16 when we got together.
And how old are your children?
3 and 16 months.
According to your complaint, things in the relationship went south. You had gone to bartend at a party. Mr. Kiwi came to the party. He didn't like the way you were dressed. He thought you were being flirtatious. You even went so far as to wear makeup. There was an altercation, and you left.
Yes.
Him.
Yes.
Took the children, and you went to your mother's?
Yes.
According to your complaint, he refuses to return your personal property.
Yes.
That's what the case is about. And that personal property, you're talking about your clothing?
Yes.
And your children's clothing?
Yes.
What else?
My daughter's TV and DVD player that my mom bought her for Christmas.
Your daughter, who's 3 years old, got a TV and a DVD player?
Yes.
Get over it. Now, Mr. Kiwi, let's deal with this one thing at a time, sir. Do you have her clothing?
No, I allowed her to come over on an agreement On December 23rd, they agreed to me that I wouldn't call the police on them, that they could come over and.
What happened to her clothing?
She came and got it with her mother and stepfather.
What
and
about
all
the
of her
children's
stuff.
clothing?
She took some of it, but basically almost all of it, and left me with like a couple pairs of clothes that don't even fit them.
Did you go there with your mother?
Yes, I didn't get all of my clothes. I still had some clothes there, and I didn't take all the kids' clothes. There's still clothes in totes in the garage that fit the girls.
Well, just a second. He's their father. Who bought the clothes?
He did. My mom did. His mom did. His sister did.
Well, you can't take all the clothing.
I don't want all the clothes.
You took some?
Yes.
Good. So, and some he has?
Yes.
Now, your clothing?
Yes. I have a few pairs of jeans over there, some more shirts over there.
You're talking about nonsense. You're talking about little stuff. What are you suing him for? I mean, I don't get it. You were together 5 years. We're not talking about a couple of pairs of jeans, madam.
No, but they're mine. I should be able to get them.
Well, do you have her jeans?
I found one pair of jeans that was in the dirty clothes, and that's the only reason she didn't
pack
take
it up
them.
and get it over to her.
Yeah.
Now, let's get to your mother. I can't stand to deal with nonsense. You say that you loaned him $1,000 to fix his truck.
Yes.
When?
It was September 12th.
What year? Did she give you $1,000 to fix your truck?
No, she found a gentleman who at a bar who works on vehicles, and at first I was going to sell my Explorer to him, parted it out.
Did
but then
she
he
pay
said he could-
$1,000 to have your truck fixed?
Yes, but
Okay. Now, it is your defense to that
yes.
that you had loaned her $3,000 a year before.
Well, I took out a loan for $3,000 because I was $1,000 behind on rent, so I paid $1,000 on rent, and I gave her $2,000 so their house would not be foreclosed on because they've took out like 4 mortgages on their home.
When did you give her the $2,000?
Before the Explorer was fixed.
Do you have any proof of that?
The only thing that I would have had was be like from my bank that say I paid off the loan, but unfortunately I didn't bring that because it's not paid off yet.
Okay. Tell me how it came about that you gave her the $2,000. Tell me about it.
Dora
you know, I'm a
was-
good judge of what's true
Dora
and what's
was
not.
crying and stuff, and I felt sorry for him because I thought we were family then, but I can see I guess we're not. And I was just being nice and helping
No,
him
tell
out.
me how it came about. Did she come to you and tell
No.
you she needed the money?
No, she spoke to Dora, and Dora was telling me
Dora,
about it.
look at me. When was it that your mother
was-
fell? Look at me. I didn't finish the question yet. When did your mother fall behind in her mortgage payments?
It was back in 2005, and he did loan her $2,000, but it wasn't from a loan. It was with his 2005 income tax.
I don't care what it was from.
2006.
Your mother said it was 2006.
It was 2006.
So, how much money did you receive from him?
$2,000, and it was paid back in monthly payments of $500 a month, starting with the month of April and ended in the month of August.
Show me.
I gave it to Dora, and they paid their rent with it.
She gave me cash.
This was never brought up about the $2,000. This was prior. We'd borrowed the money from him, and I've only got 1 mortgage on my house. I don't have 4 mortgages.
Whatever, you have 4 mortgages, you have 1 mortgage. He loaned you $2,000. When?
It was in March.
March of what year?
2006.
And what month did she fix the truck? September of '06.
Yes.
And how much did you pay him back, according to you?
I paid him $500 a month for 4 months, starting in the month of April. It was originally agreed that we were going to start paying in May, the $500, but they were low on money at the time and stuff, so I started paying the money back in April. I paid him back $500 in April, $500 in May, $500 in June, and $500 in July.
Did she pay you back any of the money?
Not all of it.
How much did she pay you back?
I'm not sure. She'd give the money to Dora like she'd say, and then Dora would say that she was paying us, but I didn't see any of the money.
In what month did your mother give you the first payment of $500?
Around the 3rd of April because we didn't have our rent money.
And when did she give you the second payment?
Towards the end of May because we spent it on my daughter's 3rd birthday party.
End of May. And when did she give you the third payment?
Sometime in June, I don't know when. And the last payment, I guess sometime in July. I don't remember the exact date, but she paid us back. And that's why she made the agreement to fix the Explorer for us because we were down on money then.
Tell me how it came about that you paid this $1,000 for him.
My daughter had called me. Scott also has a Ford Escort. It had...
Just tell me, your daughter called you and what?
Their Ford Escort was broke down. Scott did not have transportation to go to work. She was upset because she didn't want him to lose his job because the Escort was broke down. I loaned him some money to help for parts on that, And then I said that I would pay for the Explorer to be fixed so that they would have 2 cars that were running, because at that time Dora was trying to find a job so she could make income also. So I loaned him the money. I have a gentleman that I work where
Listen
I work.
to me. You have no contract with him, your daughter.
He
You
was-
know, just because they're no longer together, which is what's happened, just because they're no longer together doesn't mean that you come to court and you claim things that really aren't so. Sounds to me as if he wasn't totally a bad guy. A little controlling, perhaps. You know you're a little controlling, Mr. Kiwi.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like he's a bad guy. He thought you were all family. He gave you $2,000 from his tax returns when you needed it. He didn't even ask to see the return of the money. You say you gave it to your daughter. She did whatever she wanted to do with it. She paid bills, she paid the rent, she did everything. She never showed it to him. And he was the only one working, right? So he was making a family. Just because they're no longer together and things aren't good anymore doesn't mean that you come to court over a pair of jeans that was in the laundry and fixing the truck so that your daughter would have a car and the boyfriend would have a car.
She
So,
never
get over
got
it.
the
Now,
car.
do me a favor. Do me a favor. I have other things to do today. You have a counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, your counterclaim says that you don't see your children.
Yes.
That's your counterclaim.
Yes.
That's for a different court, sir.
Okay.
Are you in another court about seeing your children?
Yes.
Do you see your children now?
Every now and then, but it's a very big hassle because they will not take my children to the designated spot because it is not in writing. So since it's not in writing, they make me go to their house, and they know I cannot go over there because they have an ex parte. And when I go over there to see my kids, they call the police. Her mother comes out and stepfather and tries to kick my butt. So I got ex partes against them as well, her mother and stepfather.
What arrangement? Uncross your arms. What arrangements have you made for Mr. Kiwi to see his children? Don't look over there.
We have called
over here.
him, and my sister calls him at work because I can't speak to him. Calls him at work, tells him to meet my dad up the road at a store called Clyde's. He always makes an excuse. He doesn't have gas. He can't get to where it is. So my dad drives to Steve's, a gas station that's closer to him, and drops off the girls.
When was the last time you saw the children?
2 weeks ago. He's supposed to get them this weekend.
And before the last visitation, when was the last time you saw the children?
2 weekends before that.
Okay. Well, you're going to have to deal with the courts about that, Mr. Kiwi. You understand that?
Yes.
I suggest that you get whatever you need in writing, get it in writing. Do you understand?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. This case is going to be resolved this way. I want you to go into the laundry, and I want you to get her pair of jeans that she left there, put it in an envelope, and mail it back to her. Do you understand?
Yes.
Other than that, the case is dismissed. Goodbye.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Soyak versus Holloway. Step forward, please.
Limousine driver James Soyak is suing former client, business owner Tim Holloway, for an unpaid hotel bill. James says Tim is a scammer.
Mr. Holloway, how old are you, sir?
33.
And what kind of work do you do, sir?
I have a maintenance company.
How long have you had it?
My dad had it since '59. I took it over about 3 years ago.
He's no longer involved in the business.
Sometimes, yeah.
So he still goes into the office
Correct.
on a daily basis?
2 or 3 times a week.
Are you making this up as we're going along, sir?
No.
Are you trying to give me accurate answers? Because you never can tell why I'm asking you these questions.
Correct.
Now, do you live alone or do you live with someone else?
I live with my fiance.
Did you move into her place or did you move in someplace together?
Together.
When?
2 years ago.
What's the address?
North Wilson.
How large an apartment is it?
It's a condo. 2 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Are you renting or did you buy it?
We're renting that.
Are you both on the lease?
Yes.
It's like shooting fish in a barrel. Now, Mr. Soyak, you drive a limousine.
Yes, ma'am.
And your complaint is that you drove Mr. Holloway in your limousine to a casino, hotel.
Yes.
And he told you that he'd forgotten his wallet and he needed a hotel room. So you agreed to put the hotel room on your credit card.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not true.
He used the room and then stiffed you for the reimbursement.
I rented 2 rooms for him, $99 each.
In addition, he didn't have his wallet, so he said he needed some money. You gave him cash. He gave you a check
Yes, ma'am.
for $300. The check bounced.
Yes.
That's not true.
What's not true, sir?
The room. Now the check.
Let's talk about the check.
Okay.
Let me hear.
I gave him a check. Me and my fiance was having problems at the house. I couldn't get to what I need to get to the bank. I owe him for the $300, but the hotel room, it never happened.
Now, okay. Now, Mr. Holloway, your last paragraph of your answer, which you swore to, sir, says, I did give him a check for $300, which was returned. I explained that I had just moved and was having problems with my bank account.
I did just move.
No, just a second. I explained that I had just moved.
Same thing I just said.
No, that's not. Mr. Holloway, let me understand something, sir. No more than 5 minutes ago, I said to you, where do you live? You gave me the address. Who do you live with? I live with my fiance. How long have you lived there in the condo? 2 years. Did you sign a lease? Yes.
That's what I said. But I just moved. If we was having problems, evidently I had to leave because we was having problems. So I did leave. Now when we reconciled, that's one thing. But I did leave. So what I told you is the truth.
Can I see the bills for the 2 rooms, please? Mr. Soyak, how long have you been driving a limousine?
10 years.
Okay. You ever had this kind of trouble?
Never.
Mr. Soyak, let me explain something to you. Don't be an idiot. You don't take out your credit card, allow somebody to put money on your credit card. You don't take checks from people you don't know.
You're absolutely right. No,
good.
It'll never
Can I have it,
again.
please? The rooms you rented for $99, but he certainly did a lot more damage than the $99.
He drank everything in the bar. Plus movies, plus phone calls.
I never went in the room.
Okay. You owe him a whole bunch of money, sir. You owe him for these 2 hotel rooms. Who else was with you? Who else was with him, Mr. Soyak?
He found a couple of young gentlemen. They were walking the street while we were in Old Town Pasadena. And he claimed he's a music producer. And I don't know how he knew these guys can sing, but he made friends with them and invited them later to be picked up in the car. And we drove them also to the Commerce Casino. He didn't want the other two men to sleep in the same room as him, so he wanted me to get a separate room for them.
That's a lie. That never happened.
It's not a lie because I have my witnesses
Mr. Holloway,
here.
Mr. Holloway.
I have my witnesses here. My other driver that picked him up Sunday.
So you dropped him off and somebody else picked him up?
Yes.
Who picked him up?
Richard. He's my co-driver.
Step up, sir. Your last name?
Thompson.
Where did you pick Mr. Holloway up?
Commerce Casino.
Who else was with him?
2 other gentlemen, like young, like 2 20-year-olds or something like that.
Maybe that's what you were fighting with your fiancé about. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,113. That's all. Step out.
Thank you. I trust Judy. She's got a keen sense of what's going on.
I didn't sign for any room. My name wasn't on the room.
I was driving him for about 4 days. He introduced me to his friends, his family.
If he's driving, I always introduce people. That's just me.
This will never happen again. This is a very good lesson for me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lee versus Gann. Step forward, please.
20-year-old student Jonathan Lee is suing his former friend, 20-year-old student Christopher Gann, for killing his fish when he dumped soap in his freshwater aquarium. Christopher says it was an accident.
Your first name is Jonathan?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're Christopher?
Christopher.
And you used to be roommates?
Yes.
How long were you roommates?
About a year.
You go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
What year are you in?
I'm a 3rd year, ma'am. I too am a 3rd year.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Computer science.
You don't want to be a veterinarian, do you?
No.
Jonathan?
Yes, ma'am.
Christopher destroyed your fish tank.
Yes, ma'am.
Based upon those relics there, it was a big fish tank.
Yes, ma'am.
And he destroyed your fish tank with soapy water.
Yes, ma'am.
Killed all the fish.
Yes, ma'am.
He says it was the fish's fault.
More or less, ma'am.
They were in the wrong place in the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
And he tripped over them. Is that right, Christopher?
I
read your answer.
I kind of bumped into the tank.
Because you say in your answer, the tank and the fish was placed in a high-traffic zone.
Yeah, I have a set of photographs with the picture of where the tank is. And it's
I'd like to see that.
Oh.
Okay. When did this happen?
Sometime in November.
Jonathan, when did it happen?
November 18th, 2004, ma'am.
And you came home and found everything destroyed.
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right? Okay. And this is where the fish tank was?
Yes.
And it wasn't on wheels, was it?
It's on cinder blocks.
It's not one of these remote-controlled fish tanks that move around.
No.
How long have you been living in this apartment?
Almost a year.
And in the year, has the fish tank been in the same spot?
It was placed in the end of summer, and then it happened in November.
So it's been there for a couple of months.
A few months, yes.
Stationary.
Stationary.
And the only thing that's moved is you.
Is me, yes.
You get my drift where I'm
Right.
going.
Oh, and I wrote in...
So why don't you tell me, Christopher, how this happened and why you don't think that you're responsible to your former roommate for replacing his fish tank?
First off, I have a copy of our rental agreement, which states that no pets should be allowed and that no things should be placed in hallways that obstruct movement. So what had happened was I'd filled this bowl with soap, concentrated hand soap and water, and I was walking from the kitchen to the garage because I wanted to spot clean my shoes. So as I was walking with this bowl, I saw my roommate who crossed from downstairs into this pseudo hallway because it's the main walkway from rooms entrance to the kitchen. So I took the bowl away to get it away from him, and then he made a sudden move to like try to mess with me, and I kind of stepped back and I banged my elbow into the fish tank, dropping the bowl into the tank. And that's what happened.
Do you have any witnesses that were there that day?
Actually, no one witnessed it, so no one saw it.
Well, the other roommate was there, according to him.
He didn't tell me anything beyond that they were horsing around. That's it.
Tell me what happened when you got home.
When I got home, I came in from the garage and basically saw him and another roommate removing bubbles from the tank. And I was kind of shocked. And I go, "What happened?" He said, "I spilled soap into your tank." "How'd you do it?" "I was horsing around." "Well, what are you doing?" "Well, I'm moving the bubbles." So I ran over there and tried to fish the fish out of the tank with a net and put them into fresh water, hoping that I could save their lives. They were kind of floundering around, but I mean, there was still some sort of life in them.
How many fish did you have in the tank?
I had sitlets and plecos and a gourami, ma'am. I was trying to breed them.
So you had 6 fish?
I believe I had 7, 9, 10 fish and 2 snails, ma'am.
And they all died?
Yes, ma'am.
Christopher, listen to me carefully, sir. Whose fault do you think it is that all these fish died?
I think it should be, it's mutual, like, he shouldn't have had the tank there in the first place.
The tank's been there for months, sir. When for the first time did you complain to him that the tank was there?
I didn't want to complain to him.
So you never complained to him?
No.
When for the first time did you complain to him that he was in violation of the lease because he had pets in the apartment?
After he trying to come after me for $400.
But not before?
No.
So that's a lot of baloney. What you're saying to me really is, it's my fault and I'm trying to find some reason to avoid responsibility. So far, I haven't heard it's my fault because I was horsing around with my roommate.
It is my fault.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $330. Thank you. That's all.
Why don't you excuse? You may step out.
I think it's completely ridiculous that he's allowed to get $330 for essentially $30 worth of fish.
There are plenty of sites and experts that'll tell you that if you work with soap and fish, it doesn't mix.
I immediately told him what had happened, and, you know, he just looked confused and said, okay.
I was just shocked. I mean, the fact that someone could have such disregard for life just... it's a horrible thing.
I don't even live there anymore. I just come in, get clothing, leave.
The fish were basically floundering and then they were dying.
I actually do pay rent there still.
Imagine not being able to breathe. That's what they were doing.
We're not even friends anymore.
Hey, he doesn't want to be friends. That's fine too.
All over dead fish.
All parties in the matter of Tennant versus Holly. Step forward.
Carolyn Tennant is suing her son's friend, 22-year-old Jeffrey Holly, for stealing her golf cart and damaging it while driving drunk.
Miss Tennant, this young man was a friend of your son's?
Yes, ma'am.
You all went camping together?
Yes, ma'am.
And you had a golf cart that sort of takes you to and from, I guess,
Yeah.
a lake or shopping or whatever?
Well, it's like the major mode of transportation out there.
And other people have golf carts. Yes. Mr. Holly took your golf cart without your permission.
Correct.
And he was drunk.
Yes.
You agree with that?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And he had an accident.
Yes.
Your golf cart was damaged.
Correct.
And the golf cart of the other people was damaged.
Yes, ma'am.
The other people sued you as the golf cart owner.
Yes.
Successfully.
Yes.
And do you believe that Mr. Holly has the responsibility of compensating you for both that judgment
Yes.
and the damage to your golf cart?
Correct.
Mr. Holly says that it wasn't his fault,
Yes, ma'am.
and he should have been able to go to court and prove that, and since he didn't have that opportunity because you proceeded without him, he's not responsible. Did I identify your position, Mr. Holly?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
I have to find out a little bit about you, sir. Age.
Age 22.
Occupation.
Basement waterproofing and foundation wall rebuilds.
Number of times arrested.
Since I turned 18, 3 times.
For what?
Disorderly conduct, a malicious assault, and unauthorized use of heavy equipment.
Were you drinking during any one of those 3 arrests?
Yes, ma'am, the disorderly conduct.
Now, have you ever had convictions for any of those things?
Yes, ma'am.
Ever go to jail?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long?
I did 1 week, and then I got out on a signature bond.
Are those cases over?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Holly, you and booze don't get along, sir.
Yes, I agree, ma'am.
Do you want to tell me what happened with Miss Tennant's golf cart?
Yes, ma'am, I do. That night, it was Memorial Weekend, you know, and there was a bunch of us out there together, and, you know, everybody being of age recently, we all decided, you know, we were going to get drunk and have a good time. They have dances at the barn, whatnot.
You know that you don't have a good time when you get drunk.
Yeah, I'm starting to
You
realize
really
that.
understand that. You know, most of the time you don't remember. Most of the time you act stupid. Most of the time you get sick afterwards. You really have a much better time if you're sober. That doesn't mean you can't drink. That just means that you have a better time if you're not drunk. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
But you got drunk.
Yes, ma'am.
And?
And I decided to take the golf cart keys from the top of the fridge. So, I mean, I figured, you know, there was people driving it all day and most of the night. I figured, why not? You know, I mean, we were just going to go around the block and come right back. There was another golf cart passing filled with some people that lived down at the next camper down. And I thought they were going to stop, and I guess they thought I was going to stop, and it didn't work out that way.
So?
So I ran into the side of them. They proceeded to get off the golf cart and just completely make an enormous deal of it. I mean, they're golf carts. They don't go over 10 miles an hour.
No, they go faster than that.
Shh.
And during all this, I mean, everything started getting out of control. People were yelling at each other. One of the ladies on the golf cart, her fiancé, decided to sucker punch me. Then I was held from defending myself once I found out in that township I could legally defend myself once somebody put their hands on me. I was held from defending myself. And I mean, why couldn't I get any, you know, closure on that? Because I did make a police report on it, and I figured
You
not
wanted closure. Tell me how you wanted to get...
We're going to make a deal. My brother was going to give the guy $1,500 for his golf cart.
No. I'm talking about you wanted to get closure from being sucker punched, you said.
Yeah, either a chance to defend myself at that moment in time
to
or...
punch him? You wanted to punch him back.
Yes, ma'am.
And you were prohibited from doing that. How, sir?
Because Alan Reining grabbed me and basically pushed me backwards and bear hugged me and wouldn't let me.
Wouldn't let you punch him back.
Yes, ma'am.
And that would have given you closure.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been watching too many psychological programs that seem to be proliferating in daytime television, sir. Not everything gives you closure. You usually refer to the fact that you want closure when somebody in your family dies. You go and visit them and you say, now I have closure. You know, I've seen them, I've said goodbye. Closure is not usually a thing that one refers to, punching somebody back. That doesn't give you closure. Mr. Holly, you're a very polite young man. Do I make you nervous?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that why you're sweating?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Did it make you nervous when you appeared before the other judges?
Not really.
But I scare you.
Yes, ma'am.
That is a really, really good thing. I've not had a particularly good day today. That is the only thing that's made my day today. The fact that I make you nervous enough to sweat. You owe Mrs. Tennant money. You owe her the money that she spent or will spend to fix her golf cart. And you owe her the judgment that was entered against her for the accident you had when you took her golf cart without permission. Because if you go back, Mr. Holly, these are the objective facts. I'm not going to really scream and yell at you because you've been so polite. I'm going to say it easily so you can get my drift. A, you were drunk. You should never have gotten behind the wheel of any instrument that was moving because you weren't exercising good judgment. B, you got behind the wheel of it without permission. So, in effect, you stole it. You had an accident. You're responsible to reimburse her for any out-of-pocket expenses that she had. And her out-of-pocket expenses were?
$1,782.50.
$1,782.
And 50 cents.
And 50 cents. That's your liability, Mr. Holly. That's your legal responsibility. And if you don't want to incur that kind of obligation, you're not supposed to get drunk and act stupid so that you really don't know what's going on. You're not supposed to take people's property without permission. You're not supposed to get behind something that goes even 10 miles an hour when you're drunk. All of those things you did. Just say, it's going to make you feel better, and you're going to stop sweating. It's my fault. It's my fault. I was drunk. I took your property. I caused you aggravation. I'm sorry. I will make you whole. And if you can't do that, Mr. Holly, I will. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1782.50. That's all.
Why did y'all excuse the next step out?
Oh, I think that she just did a wonderful job.
I mean, I'm a little, upset about it.
Used poor judgment and not trying to pay me back.
I do have an alcohol problem. I can admit to that.
And somebody that's not responsible is not welcome.
I have land all over the place I can go.
No, he is no longer welcome back. No.
I make $15 an hour. I mean, I'll pay it, have it done out the way, and I can take my...
Left the place a mess. She caused some damage to the room, and you want to be compensated for that. Ms. Drake says she owes you absolutely nothing. She didn't have to give you any sort of notice for the last month because your conduct gave her the willies. And you're a bit of a control freak, and it was really your conduct that forced her to move. In addition, she says she left the room in substantially the same condition that she found it. It was a mess when she found it. That's the way she left it. Right?
Correct.
How did you find this room, Miss Drake?
Well, when I first moved in, the paint on the walls, part of it was...
I don't mean how did you find the... How did you locate this room to rent?
Oh, through a mutual friend.
When?
Late October, the beginning of November.
Did you sign a lease?
No, I did not.
You had a month-to-month tenancy?
Yes, basically.
When did you move in?
I moved in the beginning of November.
Give me the day.
If I have to throw a day out there, probably the 8th, between the 8th or the 10th.
Did you pay November's rent?
Yes, I did.
What was the rent?
$550.
Did you pay December's rent?
December, I believe I was a bit late on that one. Yes, I did.
Why were you late?
I had just lost my job, and it took me a couple days to get the money, but I came up with it.
What about January?
January, yes, I paid that.
Is that correct, Mr. Noma?
Yes, she did, Your Honor, but she still owes me for a bounce check, which is another case.
Don't tell me about another case. You know, I'm not as young as I used to be. I can only think about one thing at a time.
Your Honor. She still does owe me $335 for that.
Are you confusing me again, Mr. Noma?
No, I'm not, Your Honor.
January she paid $550. Is that right?
Correct.
February?
February, I paid.
She did pay, but she owes me late charges for that.
But she paid it?
She paid.
It's March we're talking about.
Yes, we're talking about March, Your Honor.
Okay. What happened in February, Miss Drake, that caused you to move out of the house?
Basically, the living conditions, I couldn't deal with it anymore.
That is really kind of mushy. I don't understand that.
Well, basically, Hiroshi, he became too controlling. My privacy was invaded. People were going into my room. There was an incident where he went into my room while I was going to get the rent to pay the landlord, and he had found something that didn't even belong to me.
Your Honor,
at that instant when I got back, he came and attacked me in front of all his friends and totally humiliated me. And
what did he find?
He found a bong in my room, which belonged to the guests.
What is that?
Smoking tool to use if you were to smoke drugs in one of my friend's possessions, which I wasn't aware of until that morning before I left.
So he found drug paraphernalia in your room.
Correct.
That's what we used to call drug paraphernalia. Now they call it something else.
Yeah,
man. Okay. How did you find this in her room?
I went into her room February. She knows that I went into her room.
She knows now.
She knows.
Why did you go into her room?
Because, Your Honor, I was looking for something. I was looking for something that she told me to look for.
What?
I believe it was a receipt, a contract that we had because she wasn't paying on time. So I had to go into her room and look for that contract, and I told her about it.
Just a minute, I want you to, Mr. Noma.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
You can't double talk me, Mr. Noma. First you said she told you to go inside the room to look for a contract. Mm-hmm. Did she tell you where to go and look in her room?
It was on the table.
That's not my question.
Yes, she did. On the table.
She said, go into my room. The contract is on the table.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what you said, Miss Drake?
No, it's not.
No, Mr.
She's
Noma,
lying, man.
listen to me, because then you said I went into her room. She knew I was going to look for it.
That's a lie.
There's a difference. You have to be very careful, Mr. Noma. You may have a just cause today. If you fudge the truth, you're not going to be successful. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were snooping around in her room.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. And you found this drug paraphernalia.
Yes, ma'am.
Much better. You see how easy that was? And you don't get tortured.
I apologize.
Right? I don't like to torture people. It doesn't make me feel terrific. Okay, so you were snooping around in her room and you confronted her with the drug paraphernalia?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was there when you confronted her with the drug paraphernalia?
One of her friends was in the room when I confronted her in her room. I knocked on her door, went in her room, and talked to her about it. She kept denying it. All my friends were outside in the living room. They were not in the room. That room is about 15 by 15. All 7 people cannot fit in a small room.
Fine. Okay, now, Mr. Noma, let's get back to what you are suing for, which is March's rent.
Yes, ma'am.
Was Miss Drake living in her room in March?
No, ma'am. She gave me a 30-day notice at the end of February, an oral agreement that we had.
Did you give him the 30-day notice?
I gave him a notice, yes, probably, I believe it was February 26th or 27th, right before I moved, because I couldn't live there anymore. I told him I can't deal with it. This is my notice.
Okay. And basically what you're telling me is you left because he was invading your space.
Correct. It was unbearable.
And you felt that he had violated the terms of your tenancy by going into your room without your permission.
Correct.
I agree. Okay?
Yeah.
I agree with you. You moved out on what date?
The 27th of February.
Did you take all of your stuff with you?
No, I did not.
What did you leave there?
I still have yet to move my furniture.
Then you owe him for March rent. Because just because you're behind isn't sleeping in the room, if your furniture and personal property is in the room, you're still renting his room. Do you understand?
Correct.
You can't walk out and say, well, I'm going to go hang out with my friends and I'll go get my property whenever I feel like it. I don't have to pay rent there if I'm not sleeping there.
He didn't say I had to pay the rent for March. He said, we actually settled the date. I don't remember the date exactly. He had told me if you don't have your stuff out by this date. And he said he would not let me get my stuff until I paid the rent.
Just a second. When did you go back there to get your stuff after the 27th of February?
Around between the 10th to the 14th or something like that of March. I went and got all my mail and my clothing. And I had told him if I could leave my furniture in the room. And then he had asked me if one of his friends could sleep on my bed and use my furniture while it was still there. And I agreed to that.
But you had your stuff there without his permission until the 15th of March.
Well, he knew it was...
I don't care what he knew. You had your stuff there, along with your clothing and everything else, until the 15th of March.
Correct.
And he hadn't given you permission between the 27th of February and the 15th of March to leave your stuff there. Only after the 15th of March. Is that right?
Correct.
That's why he's not suing you for April and May and June. So you owe him $550. Now let's get to the condition of the room.
Your Honor, the condition of the room was fine when she moved in. Prior to her moving in, one of our mutual friends was there. He never really had stuff. He never really posted anything on the walls. She posted posters on the walls. There's like
Show me photographs.
I do have photographs of a hole in the door, which one of her friends did. And this is an agreement that we had that she's going to reimburse me of any damages that she incurs in the room.
Who wrote this?
I did.
You're not going to law school, are you?
No, ma'am, but I was planning to.
I don't think so. Okay. Got a cigarette burn. Got some schmutz on the carpet. How did the hole get put in the door?
That was from a water bottle that was tossed by one of my friends to another friend of mine, and they didn't catch it, and it hit the door.
Well, so you have to fix that, right?
Yes.
So you owe him $865, $315 for the door and $550 for rent. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
Party's up, Steve. You may step out.
It was just too crazy, controlling, and
Her parents would call about 5 times every day looking for her.
calling my parents on my bag, calling my job,
snooping through my things.
I wasn't really snooping around or trying to be sneaky and stuff like that.
Basically, it was just crazy.
At the end, when I finally got fed up, I mean, I can't help people who can't help themselves.
Like living with my parents again, basically.
Don't be fooled by other people. They might be nice, but...
Maria Prieto claims her son's former friend, James Alfter, started a fire in her home while trying to grow marijuana.
Ms. Prieto, you rented a house to the defendant.
That's correct.
And it is your claim that he is responsible for a fire in your home that resulted in damage. Some of the damage was covered by insurance, but a great deal of it was not covered by insurance, and you want him to pay the balance.
That's correct.
Your out-of-pocket expenses. Mr. Alfter?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way you pronounce your name?
Yes, ma'am.
You look petrified. Are you scared of me?
No.
You should be.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mr. Alfter says that your homeowner's insurance should have covered whatever losses there were. He wasn't doing anything wrong, and it was just an accident. That's your defense.
Yes.
Your Honor, I disagree.
Just. How old are you, sir?
20.
When did you move out of your home?
I've been on my own since I was about 18.
And how have you been taking care of yourself?
I work.
For whom?
Family business.
What kind of business?
Construction. I do concrete work.
Whose business is it?
It's my grandfather's.
Who else works there?
The crew, my dad, my brothers.
So it's a big business?
Yeah.
It's a lucrative business?
Yeah.
How much? Yes, try yes.
Yes.
How much do you get paid?
$30 an hour.
And you work 7 days a week, 6 days a week, 5 days a week?
40-hour weeks.
So you've got money in the bank?
I'm all right.
What?
I said I'm all right. Yes.
You have a car?
Yes.
In shape? Do you work out?
Yes.
You work out at home or in a gym?
The gym.
You have a gym membership?
Yes.
I ask you all these questions, sir, because I'm trying to find out a little bit about you. Because this complaint says, Mr. Alfter, that the fire that started in Miss Prieto's house, on what date?
September the 12th.
On what date did he move into the house?
He moved in July 1st.
Was started because in your bedroom, right?
In master bedroom, correct.
People usually sleep in the master bedroom, right?
Yes.
How many bedrooms were there in the house?
5.
How many people were living in the house?
Just 2.
You and who else?
Me and my roommate.
Male or female?
Male.
So that those were 2 bedrooms. You don't spend the night with your roommate, right? You each have your own bedroom, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But I guess you didn't want you or your roommate to get the master bedrooms, because then it would be unequal, so that you each stayed in other bedrooms.
Yes.
And you were using your master bedroom to grow marijuana. You actually hadn't brought in the plants yet, according to the complaint and the answer, but it was all set up with a whole bunch of lights, right?
Yes, there's equipment.
I mean, you weren't planning on shooting a film in there, were you?
No.
You were going to grow marijuana.
Yes.
What were you going to do with it when you grew it?
Well, I have anxiety, and I was going to try to get my card, cannabis card.
You have anxiety?
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing yet. Your parents are alive?
Yes.
Did they know you were coming here today?
Yes.
Did they know that 10 million people were going to be watching you today?
Yes.
Did they offer you any warning, sir?
Yes.
And I know that it's not relevant to the case, but I, because I am a mother, would like to know what your parents said to you.
They told me I better learn my lesson.
Both of them?
Yes.
Sounds like my kind of people. Who do you expect to pay for these damages that weren't covered by Miss Prieto's insurance as a result of your lunacy in trying to start a marijuana farm in her house?
Myself.
Right. So why didn't you just pay her, sir? Why did you force her to come here? You know, I mean, I know that she looks lovely and she appears to be a very nice lady, but why didn't you just say, I'm really sorry, I acted like an idiot, I'm 20 years old, I'm not fully grown up yet, you know, just help me out here. It'll never happen again. I'm going to cut my hair so I can see, you know, all of those things.
The sum, that amount that she wanted was pretty high. I thought the insurance would have covered it, but I was going to pay the deductible.
Yeah, but the insurance company didn't, for instance, pay for all the landscaping around the house that was singed.
But when I moved in the house, the land or the landscaping wasn't too caught up.
May not have been too caught up. What about the fact that she didn't have the use of her house for a while?
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah, I know, that's my fault.
So who should pay for that?
Myself.
Yes, ma'am. Can I see the bills, please?
Sure. And I have pictures also.
Should have listened to your parents, Mr. After. Father's a pretty tough guy?
Yeah.
Are you using your real name today, sir?
Yes.
Is your father's last name the same as yours?
Yes.
Look what you did to her house. Bird, look what he did to her house. You planned on smoking an awful lot of weed, sir, for your anxiety. Why don't you go to a therapist?
I don't know.
Well, I would try a therapist before I would start farming again. Who helped you with all this, sir?
I did it myself.
What about your roommate?
No, well, he helped a little bit.
Was he going to be your partner?
No.
What does he do for a living?
He works.
For whom?
He does construction, too.
For your father?
No. No.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Please.
Okay, as far as all that equipment he purchased, and it was worth over supposedly $6,000, and he didn't have money to pay the rent. So he had money to go out there and buy all that, plus, you know, start his little lab thing. But on the other hand, he's making $30 an hour, and he could have just stepped up to the plate and said, I'm going to pay you. Even payments. I said, can you make payments? And he's like, yeah, I will. Never followed through.
He's very anxious because he's not smart. And unless he gets smarter, he's going to remain anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Say sorry.
Sorry.
Not to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, that's all.
All parties in the matter of Murray versus Easton, step forward, please.
23-year-old Lisa Murray is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Ish Easton, for the cost of a plane ticket to New Jersey. Ish claims Lisa is being vindictive.
Miss Murray, Mr. Easton and you dated briefly, according to your complaint, and you believe he owes you for an airline ticket that you purchased for him in order that the two of you go home to meet the parents. And then you broke up for the trip. Mr. Easton says that the going home to meet the parents was strictly your idea. He never asked you to buy the ticket. You bought it on your own, so you pay for it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you meet him?
February 2006. We were working together.
And when did you start dating?
We started dating in the beginning of June 2006.
And when did you want to go and introduce him to your family?
Through the month of June, or in the beginning of July 2006, our relationship became serious.
No. You're talking so fast I can hardly understand you. I asked you a simple question. When did you want to take him home to meet your parents?
July 2006.
After a full week? Why?
Well, I had missed my family very much, and he also said that he would like to go. He was excited about going to see New York City and seeing New Jersey.
If he was so excited, why didn't he buy his own ticket?
He currently did not have the money at the time, nor did he have a credit card.
What was the arrangement that you made with him?
That when we came back from our trip, that he would be reimbursing me.
And when did you break up?
September 7th, 2006.
And when were you supposed to go to New York?
September 9th, 2006.
I'll hear you.
After she had initially brought the idea to go visit her parents, I told her then, I was like, well, I don't have money.
No, look at me, look at me.
Oh, I told her then, I don't have money to pay you back for any kind of ticket before we even discussed repaying anything.
Why would you say that to her? I thought you met at work.
This is after we started dating, man.
No, listen to me. You're not listening. You don't have your listening ears on. You said, I don't have any money. And she just told me that you met at work in February of 2006. What kind of work were you doing?
I, at the time, was working at Home Depot, man.
And in July, where were you working?
I worked for a structural engineering firm.
And in August?
Still work there, man.
Okay, so you were working. You were employed.
Yes.
Do you have children?
No. Before dating Miss Murray, I was in a previous relationship. Separating from that relationship, I had to move back home. But upon moving back home, my parents were like, well, you got to help pay bills and stuff like that. So I pay half of everything.
So?
Leaving pretty much nothing.
Well, that's not true. You have money to eat out, right?
On occasion, man. And that was money that I was like, Mom, you know, can I borrow $50 to go out? Or
Mr. Easton, when you discussed with Miss Murray going to New York, I don't believe that you said to her, I don't have the money to pay you now, and I'll never have the money to pay you back. Because I don't think that under those circumstances she would have continued to see you, because that would have sounded like something a bum would say. I don't have money now, maybe. I'll never have money to pay you back. I wouldn't have taken you to meet my parents. I would have been humiliated to take you. You're a bum. If you say, I'll never have any money to buy an airline ticket for $295. So I don't believe that you said that to her. I believe that you probably said to her, I don't have money to pay for it now. That I believe. Now, when did she buy the ticket?
She called me and was like, I bought tickets to go to New Jersey.
No, you had already discussed it. So don't say it came as a surprise to you. It didn't come as a surprise.
I don't know the exact date of her
When did you
buying
purchase the tickets?
July 25th, I purchased the tickets. I have phone calls.
Shh. And she told you that she purchased them in July?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And you were working in Home Depot?
I was working at Home Depot and the engineering firm at the same time.
So 2 places.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the ticket?
I was unable to refund it because he broke up with me within 24 hours prior to canceling it.
You have the bill?
Yes.
Why did you break up right before you were ready to leave for New York, sir?
Well, there was a span of like 2 weeks where her and I barely ever saw each other, and that was because my work schedule at the engineering firm went from a regular 8-hour day to 9 to 12-hour days, and I didn't have time to see her. It was work, home, work, bed, pretty much.
Okay.
A gentleman that I play football with, his girlfriend and Miss Murray became very good friends, hanging out, had informed me that the plaintiff had gone to MySpace and read a quote that I'd written on MySpace. And that was one of the first issues. One of the other issues was
Did you say something not nice about her?
I didn't say anything toward her at all. The quote that I left on my page said, due to the pain caused by love, to love I say. And that was nothing toward her previous relationship exactly to that. Then it went from that to she had been saying, oh, I don't have money, I don't have money, I don't have money. Well, then my friend's girlfriend is like, oh, we went shopping today. And Lisa bought this, and Lisa bought that, and Lisa bought this.
Why does it make any difference to you whether she said I don't have money?
Well, because if you're going to tell me you don't have money, then how are you going to turn around and go shopping?
She wasn't asking for money from you, was she?
Initially broke up with her because she lies. You can trust a thief because you know they're going to steal. You can trust a killer, you know they're going to kill. But you can't trust a liar. I asked her, I said, well, did you go on my MySpace page and read that? She said no. And before that, I said, is there anything you want to tell me about that you haven't said to me in the past? No, there's nothing I can think of.
You're going to get your $295 back for the ticket. Before you leave, you should get down on the floor, on all fours, kiss the ground, and say, God, thank you for terminating this relationship, because this guy is no good. No bargain, no good, no way. I don't know much about you. I don't know if you're good, but I can tell you right now, he's a bum. He's always going to be a bum, because he makes excuses for what he does that bear no resemblance to reality. That's what he just did. He just gave me a whole cock and bull story. In reality, he probably found somebody else to cover some of his bills. Because when someone is so smitten with a woman, they don't not see them for 2 weeks. They may give up sleeping, but they won't go work, job, work, school, work, and not see the person for whom they have lost their heart. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So he made up a whole big story. Nothing in his story was true. So you're a very lucky girl that you got rid of him, because for somebody who doesn't like lying, he has become very proficient at it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $295. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Financially, he didn't have the money and had other obligations to pay for, and I became at the bottom of the list.
You know, you can't argue with it, so just live on, move on.
He's the one who stood in the courtroom and lied today.
I got things to do, life to live, and just would rather move on and not have to deal with it no more.
Just learn from it and move on.
92. Yes. There came a time when your former daughter-in-law and her husband were having some difficulty, and the 3 children came to live with you. One of the children remained with you. Is this the young man?
My grandson.
He's now 18?
Correct.
But he's been with you since he's 16. And it is your complaint that during that time, Miss Hood was receiving support from your son for his son.
Yes.
And was not sending that support to you.
Correct.
So you're suing for that support, and also what you believe is her obligation to send some support herself for her child. Ms. Hood says that the meager amount of money that your son was sending to support his 3 children hardly supported one child, and that there was never an agreement with you that she would send support. She quite frankly thinks that it's absurd that you should come to court now and ask for what is $18 a week that your son was sending for his son's support.
Right.
Where is your son?
My son is there, Trevor.
That would be you?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, stand up next to your mother, please. Your last name is?
Warman.
How many children do you have, sir?
3 by my ex-wife.
No, altogether.
4.
What kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a security guard.
How old are your children?
18, 17, 16, and 8.
Are you remarried?
No, ma'am.
Does the 8-year-old child live with you?
No.
Do you support the 8-year-old child?
Yes.
How much?
Right now we're going to court, and I'm in the process of getting medical insurance for her.
So the answer would be nothing.
Right now.
And how much do you send for your 16-year-old?
$69 per month.
Or $16 per week. That's what it comes down to. Or slightly more than $2 a day for your 16-year-old, right?
Okay.
Mr. Warman, I've just done the math on my trusty calculator because I'm not much of a mathematician.
He not only gives him money, but he also helps him. He buys them things. I mean, that's just not cut and dry. He bought sheets for their beds, but she didn't supply for their children's bed. He bought sheets for the beds because they didn't have any.
Oh, you're going to make him Father of the Year.
No, but I'm saying he does do other things. He doesn't just give the support. He does other things. He sees his children.
Miss Miller.
I disagree.
How many children did you raise?
4.
And who supported your children when they were growing up?
My husband's and
what
myself.
What kind of work did he do?
Okay, I had 2 husbands. Okay, the first one worked at the post office, and my current husband works at a warehouse.
Is your former husband the father of the children?
The former husband, yes.
The former husband, the one who was a postal worker?
Yes. And then I had another husband in between, and that was the other 2 kids. 2 children, 2 children. Well, it's like her. She...
No, don't point to her.
Okay, she's been married 3 times,
don't
too.
Point to her. I'm not interested in her. I'm on your team now.
Okay.
Miss Warman, let's talk about how many people live in your house?
4.
Who are they?
My oldest son and Jeremy and my husband and myself.
You have your own home?
Yes.
You have a mortgage?
Yes.
What are the mortgage payments?
$1,100.
So you would say $1,100 a month. Okay, so that would be approximately for the 4 people, $275 a month towards the mortgage, right?
Yes.
How much would you say you spend for food for the month?
I spend a good $600 to $800 a month.
So another $200 a month for each of the adults?
Yes.
So now we're up to $475, just for food and the roof?
Right.
We're not talking about clothes or anything else. How can you justify, madam, $18 a week that your son is sending support for his children as coming anywhere near the kind of support that I'm speaking that a child needs, and I'm not talking about buying pillowcases.
Right.
We're talking about support, real support. Now, if your son has a marginal job and can't afford anymore, fine. That's all he can afford. He wasn't too swift after not being able to support these 3 children. He went out and made another one, right?
Right.
You would say that that's true.
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 3 grown, no more.
At least she knew when she had enough. Do you understand, Miss Miller?
Yes.
Okay. Now, here we have $475 to just put a roof over their heads and to feed them.
I don't make that money. My husband makes money, and he's not his blood grandfather.
I understand that. I'm talking about your son.
Right, and that's what the court ordered him to pay was the $18.
And I want you to understand that that is ridiculous.
That could be.
Ridiculous.
Yes, it is. It's not enough.
$43 a month.
But the thing
It's
is...
ridiculous.
Right, but she doesn't have any children in her house now.
She should, just a second, she should have been paying support for her child who was living with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. All I'm saying is...
It's very little.
All I'm saying is he's not blameless.
No.
And you should have, before you look towards a stranger, because she's a stranger to you, before you look to a stranger, you should have said to your son, who works a security job, get 2 jobs.
Right. And every time I needed something for Jeremy or Jeremy needs something, he asks his father, and his father gives him money for this and that. He has.
I'm not talking about giving his money
I
for
know.
this and that. I'm talking about helping you pay the $475 a month that you say it takes to support a child.
Yes, more than that.
Believe me, it's more than that. It's just the roof and the food. But your first vision should not be to her. Your first vision should be to him.
That's why I go to him when we need extra things.
Good.
I don't go to her.
Now, what you want from her is the $18 a week she was receiving while he was in your care. Why didn't you send that to her, Mrs. Hood?
I was supporting my son. I picked him up. I took him places. I gave him money for things.
You're supposed to do that. You're his mother.
But that's not true, Your Honor.
I don't want to hear from you, sir. When I hear any kind of substantial contribution to your children's support, I will listen to you. But right now, I didn't hear any of that from your mother. I heard you took them and got them things that they needed. Not saying to your mother, here is the $475 a month that it takes to put a roof over his head and feed him. I'm going to give that to you, and then we'll worry about everything else. So you have to be quiet.
Would you like me to sit down?
No, you can stand next to your mother.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What kind of work do you do now?
I will be a flight attendant.
So the answer is you do not work now?
Because I lost my job because of her.
Is anything your fault? I want to know if anything's your fault.
And later today.
Now she has the title free and clear. Do you want the car or nothing?
People, Judge Judy. Marianne Miller says ex-daughter-in-law Kelly Hood owes for the cost to support her son. Marianne claims Kelly is a deadbeat mom.
You're supposed to take him and buy him things, madam.
Well, I know that. And I also give her support at the very beginning. Gave her the child support card. We get a little child support card.
$40.
And it was misused, and the child support agency told me that I wasn't supposed to give it to her because I still had custody of him.
I don't know what you mean. You gave her the child support card. What does that mean?
That's where the child support comes on a little, like, credit card instead of sending you a check in the mail. So I give it to her to help support, and I was told I wasn't supposed to do that because I have custody of him.
Well, that's ridiculous, Miss Hood. You may have legal custody on a piece of paper, but you weren't putting food in his mouth 3 times a day. So that's ridiculous. Why did you even ask somebody? If you had a card, if what they do is they don't give you the money, but they give you a card, and it's really taken off of the card, why did you even have a discussion with anybody about that? His grandmother had physical custody of him. His father was sending $18 a week support. As minimal as it is, it should have been sent to his grandmother.
At that time, I had 3 kids.
I'm talking about 3 children. We're only talking about 1. So the question is?
Well, the fact about it is this is a divorce decree that I've had custody of the kids ever since.
What difference does it make?
That he abandoned. He denied his parental rights that I have here.
Listen to me. Let us not go back in history.
And then this...
Let's look at me. Let's not go back in history. This young man went to live with his grandmother 2 years ago when he was 16. I don't want to hear about when he was 2 or 5 or 7 or 9 or 11 or 13. He went to live with his grandmother at your request when he was 16, and he has remained there. Now, she could have pursued support against you while he was there. She did not. And I'm not entertaining that. I'm not entertaining that part of her claim. Support against you personally. I just want to know is that you have any valid reason why you didn't turn over the support that you were receiving for him from his father to his grandmother.
Because she, like I said, she had misused it, and then the power of attorney
How
says
did she
that it doesn't
misuse?
have...
Just a second. How did she misuse the $18 a week?
Buying dinner for the family and cigarettes for him.
No, I didn't.
Shh. Buying dinner for the family on $18 a week? That's ridiculous, Miss Hood. What kind of work do you do?
I did have a job as shipping and receiving.
Is right now what you're saying to me? I don't care what you did in the past. What kind of work do you do now?
I will be a flight attendant.
So the answer is you do not work now?
Because I lost my job because of her.
Is anything your fault? I want to know if anything's your fault. Now, something must have happened recently that got your dander up. You want to tell me what it is?
Yes. Back in November, her current husband choked one of my grandchildren, and the police were called.
Which grandchild?
Joshua, his brother.
His brother. And they went to court.
Not true, Your Honor.
I have
don't interrupt her. Go ahead.
Paperwork on this. He choked the child, and Jeremy told his mother that he will not speak to her again if he accepts that man back in the house after he choked his brother. Jeremy's definitely afraid of her ex-husband. That's why he's living with me. She took him back in the house. Joshua and Jeremy went to live with his father. She went to court and had child support doubled, and she has none of the children living with her. And that kind of got my goat.
Got it. Well, we'll get my goat, too. Is the money still coming out of your check?
Yes, ma'am, every month, every
week. And the children are living with you?
Yes.
When did you go back to court?
I'm going to court February the 23rd for custody. I've got the motions filed in court to get him in school. I got him in school this month.
How old are the children?
16 and 15.
Well, If the children want to live with you, that's where they're going to live. Because at this age...
Because they don't want to listen to me.
Excuse me?
That's because they do not want to listen to me, and they fill their heads with stuff.
Listen to me. For whatever reason, 15-year-old and a 16-year-old are going to make judgments, and the court's going to assign them a lawyer. And if the lawyer says, my clients want to live with their father, and unless somebody can establish that it would place them in a neglectful situation, that's where they're going to live. You owe her the $18 a week that you've been receiving from her son.
Even though he's back in arrears of child support of $2,000 that he's owed me for years.
Just a second.
And I've raised the kids all by myself without him even being in there.
Just a second. Listen to me very carefully. If he took custody of your son and he was in arrears in child support, we would not be having this discussion. We are having this discussion because his mother took custody of your son, and his mother supported him. While you were receiving current support, not a lot, little bit, you were receiving current support for him, and you cannot do that. You really cannot do that. You should have sent that money each and every week to her and said, I know it's not much. It's all that your son gives me for his support. As little as it is, I'm giving it to you to defray his expenses. You got it?
As she was so inspired about support, why'd she catch in my children's bonds that were supposed to to get my ex-husband furniture, a stereo system with surround sound, a $300 chair, if she's so concerned about support?
That has nothing to do with you. Listen to me. If she wanted to take the $18 a week and blow it when you gave her the $18 a week and she went and took the $18 and put it in a Goodwill box, that's her prerogative. We're not saying that the money that you received for this child's support was enough to support him. It was not. It wasn't enough to keep him in orange juice. But it belonged to her, not to you, because you were not fulfilling your custodial responsibility by maintaining a home for him, which is the moral reason why you receive support. You are not maintaining a home for him. His grandmother was. So his grandmother was spending substantially more than $18 a week to support him. You had the obligation of forwarding that money to her. There's no discussion about it. You got the money, you keep it for a month, and you say, here's $18 times 4.3. I'm sending it to you by the month rather than by the week because it's just too much trouble, because I know you've been taking good care of him. And I assume if she wasn't taking good care of him, you would not have permitted him to stay there as his mother. Okay. Now, Miss Miller.
Yes.
What she owes you for the child support is $1,028, because that's the support that you should have forwarded to her for the 2 years that this child was in her custody. That's all. Thank you. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you.
Are excused. You may step out. You know, the Trevor, the dad, you know, he's a high school dropout. He just wished he was like me.
Choked my son.
I mean, this guy is just so jealous of me.
He's threatened this boy right here.
I never laid any fingers on his kids. No, I did not.
How can a grown man threaten a child and choke a 15?
Daniel Seabolt says ex-girlfriend Amanda Deaton lied to him, claiming he was the father of her baby. He is suing for unpaid rent and the return of his PlayStation and computer.
All right, Mr. Seabolt, you and the defendant had a relationship, according to what I read in your complaint. The defendant became pregnant. According to you, you leased an apartment in your name.
Your Honor.
You moved in together. She had her baby. You didn't get along.
Correct.
You subsequently ascertained that this baby was not yours. You took a paternity test.
Right, Your Honor.
And you separated.
We actually separated before the paternity test.
So you separated, and then you took the paternity test.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you told her when you moved out that you wanted her to move out too, because
Right, Your Honor.
you didn't want to be responsible for the rent anymore. She did not. She stayed in the apartment for several months. Is that right?
Yeah, about 2 months.
You want her to pay that 2 months' rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
And in addition, you claim that you left some property at the house. You want that property.
I would like that back, yes.
Ms. Deaton says she doesn't have your property. You knew that you didn't have to leave the house, that you could have stayed there with your family, that you knew that there was a possibility that this baby wasn't yours all along, so that she didn't fool you. Is that true, by the way?
That is, I knew there was a small chance that the baby was not mine.
How small a chance?
I assume there's a very small chance, but obviously not that small.
Just curious. Why did you assume that there was a chance that the child wasn't yours?
Because I found out that she had cheated on me with one of my best friends. After I found that out, and then we started talking a couple months later, and we tried to patch things back up, and then we found out she was pregnant.
How come you didn't have a paternity test immediately?
I was just trying to forget the incident of the cheating and the separation, trying to work back towards our relationship. And any reminder that was sort of painful for me, I was just trying to get back on with our lives.
How old are you, Mr. Seabold?
I am 22 years old.
How old are you, Miss Deaton?
18.
Shh. Please. How old is your baby?
My daughter is 14 months old.
Does the child's father pay child support?
No, he does not.
Why not?
At the time of conceiving my daughter, I was not dating Daniel. I was in a relationship with the father. Upon becoming pregnant, upon knowing I was pregnant, I should say, because I did not find out right away. I found out after I was 10 weeks along. Daniel and I had started dating at that time when I...
Could you answer my question? I mean, I'm not interested in from the year of the flood. I just want to know how
no,
come
he does
the
not.
father doesn't pay child support for the child.
He signed his rights over to Daniel Seabold.
You mean he terminated his parental rights?
Yes, he did.
With a lawyer?
I don't believe so. It was between him and I and 2 witnesses and then notarized and sitting in his courthouse, so...
It means nothing.
That's good to know. Thank you. I was not of knowledge.
Well, I'm telling you, unless he's been advised of his right to counsel, child has to have an attorney as well before somebody can give up their rights. He's giving up his rights to somebody else who's not the father. Ridiculous. Correct. Your child has the right to be supported by 2 parents. And before somebody can give up their parental rights, there are certain rules and regulations that have to be followed. And you can't just wake up one morning, give yourself a good scratch on the rear end and say, I think I'm going to give up my rights and my responsibility as a father. How old is this other character?
22 as well.
Okay. Now, she stayed in the apartment for 2 months after you moved out.
Yes, Your Honor.
Where did you expect her to go?
I assumed she'd either go to her parents' house, where we actually moved from, because they were kind enough to let me stay there when we found out she was pregnant. I told her upon leaving that I wanted to move back into the apartment, so I was asking her to leave, but I didn't want to see our daughter out. I wanted to keep a roof over her head, and I told her she could either stay there and pay rent, or I asked her kindly to move out.
How long was your lease?
The lease was a year lease.
And how many months did you actually live there?
I lived there from July to December, so that's 7 months.
Did you move back into the apartment?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Well, are they suing you for the entire remainder of the lease?
I'm not quite sure exactly what they're suing me on.
Well, why don't you let me take a look, since I don't think you understand legal documents very well.
I do not have a copy of how much. I spoke with the representative, Stacy, and she told me...
I'm not interested in what Stacy told you, sir. That's hearsay.
Sorry, Your Honor.
Mr. Seabold, you're 22 years old. What do you do for a living, sir?
I work at Walgreens. I'm a photo specialist.
How high of an education did you have?
I graduated high school.
One of the things you have to have when you come to court is evidence.
Right, yeah.
If you're dealing with a managing company, the managing company will tell you and will be more than happy to memorialize in a writing how much money they are claiming you owe them.
Unfortunately, I couldn't get a hold of the person to send me the facts.
So what do you want me to do, Mr. Seabold? What do you want me to do?
I obviously don't expect you to go and do my research for me.
You're absolutely right. I feel sorry for you because they probably will come after you not only for the 2 months that she lived there, but probably for the remainder of the lease if they haven't rented the apartment. You can't come to court and expect me to get your proof for you. You understand?
Yeah, I understand, Your Honor.
Good. What property did you leave there, Mr. Seabold?
I left my laptop computer.
Where is his computer?
That's exactly why I brought my mother. The computer is not in my possession. Upon Daniel leaving, he took just a duffel bag with some clothes. He did come back to the apartment at one time where an altercation occurred between him and I.
About what?
He came to the apartment with his girlfriend.
Oh, that's not... Why did you do that?
She was my ride. I didn't want to go alone.
Nobody else could drive you there except a new girlfriend?
Unfortunately, yes. I had moved...
Sorry. Tacky. Right?
Yeah, not
That's
the
pretty
best choice. I discovered later on, yeah.
Tacky. Okay. Laptop computer, sir. When you leave, it seems to me that's one of the first things you take with you is a laptop computer. Why didn't you take it with you the first time?
I was being a nice guy, and Amanda had asked me to keep it there so she can go online and apply for some jobs.
I have my own laptop computer.
Which doesn't have the capability to go online through a landline. It's only capable of going through DSL, and we did not have that service.
So where's his computer? Don't look down at the floor. Just listen to me. So far, you're not losing, but don't lie.
Oh, I'm not going to lie. My parents are in possession of the PlayStation and the computer.
Oh, fine, so that they can return it to him.
The reason that they have it is there's a large amount of money that Daniel owes my parents.
Just a second. What does Daniel owe your parents money for?
My daughter's christening that he had said he was prepared to pay for the day of the christening. After the guests had left the christening party, my parents had to pay because he was not prepared to.
What else?
My parents paid rent in November, but it was actually December. It was November's rent they paid because we were behind.
What else?
I don't even know, honestly.
Listen to me very carefully. You can stand up next to your daughter. Mr. Seabolt may be a 22-year-old idiot, but I'm not. You expect him to pay for a christening for a child that's not his?
He agreed to pay for the christening.
Look, listen to me. Shh. Shh.
He planned...
Listen to me. This is your daughter.
Right.
This is your grandchild.
Oh, yeah.
You pay for the christening.
Sure.
You cannot keep his computer. You cannot keep his PlayStation. You cannot keep any of his property. Do I make myself clear?
Sure.
Good. Your daughter lived in an apartment, and if you helped out with rent for a month, you helped your daughter, right?
Sure.
Perfect. So, PlayStation or computer. What else, Mr. Seabolt?
There was
Don't leave yet. Are you living with your parents, by the way?
No, I am not.
Who are you living with?
My grandmother.
How come?
Due to a situation between my parents and I.
What kind of situation?
There are problems with my teenage brother and myself that I'm old enough to not need to live there, and my brother is a minor, so he needs to stay at his parents. So I have taken my daughter, and I am at my grandmother's.
That computer better be returned to him, as well as the PlayStation, in perfect condition.
They were not in perfect condition when taken.
Exactly the same way as they were when they were taken.
Absolutely.
Don't mess around with me.
No,
You'll be very unhappy if you mess around with me.
I believe you.
What else?
There was a RCA 19-inch television set.
Where's the TV?
The TV was taken out of the apartment by Daniel and was taken to wherever he was at that time.
That is true. I was debating on whether or not I should try to put this in the case. I stayed at some friend's house, and when I moved out, there were some skirmishes between us and them, and he told me that he gave it back to Amanda.
You cannot tell me what anybody told you.
I apologize, Your Honor.
You get back your computer and your PlayStation.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's a 22-year-old man need a PlayStation for? What do you do with it?
I use it for entertainment, for relaxation.
He doesn't work. He lived at our house for a year and never paid a penny. He doesn't have a car. He didn't have a job. When he had a job, he took her car.
So?
So we supported him. That's why he had a lot of time to play PlayStation.
How old are you?
40.
How old was he, 20?
Yeah.
He was 20. So he's staying home, sharing a room with your daughter, playing his PlayStation, and you're supporting them. Is that right?
Yes.
That doesn't make you too smart.
No, believe me.
But that's what you chose to do.
Right.
He doesn't owe you money for that.
No, he doesn't.
Right.
Gratitude would be nice.
Did you get gratitude from your daughter?
More than him.
Not enough. Right, Miss Deaton?
Oh, not enough. Not right now, no.
Right. I assumed so. We won't go there because this is only a half-hour program. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for your security deposit back.
Correct.
You used your high school money, $1,000 for security deposit.
Correct.
How long did you live in the apartment?
Till January.
Were you working?
I was working from October to January, yes.
How much were you earning?
Not a lot. I was very part-time.
Okay,
Daniel
you were
was
very
working
part-time.
full.
So who was paying the rent?
Daniel and my parents.
Well, your parents paid 1 month. That's what you told me about 5 minutes ago.
Correct.
The rest of the 5 months, Daniel paid, right?
Correct.
Correct.
However, the security deposit paid for July and August. So Daniel paid September, October, and $100 of December.
Just a second, how could your security deposit pay for the first 2 months?
Because of Daniel's credit, we had to pay a double security deposit.
Fine, and how many months did you live there? 2.
Correct.
Good.
Daniel Seabolt says ex-girlfriend Amanda Deaton lied to him, claiming he was the father of her baby. He is suing for unpaid rent and the return of his PlayStation and computer.
Okay, Miss Deaton, you lived there for a couple of months after he moved out. You had a choice. You could have moved back to your parents. You're a teenager with a baby. You chose to stay there. You ate up your security deposit. You don't get it back. You do get back your PlayStation, your computer. 5 days, 9 a.m. Be there or be square. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. All parties in the matter, Herzog versus Emery. Step forward, please.
Kimberly Herzog is suing her former nanny, 24-year-old Sarah Emery, for a loan to pay her bills, lost wages, and daycare costs. Sarah says Kimberly is possessive and controlling.
Ms. Herzog, the defendant was working for you as a nanny, And according to your complaint, you loaned her $1,000 because she was having some back surgery. The arrangement was that she was supposed to pay you back. You were going to deduct a certain amount of money when she returned to work from her weekly salary. So far, am I correct?
Yes.
And she had the surgery, and then, according to you, she left your employment. You want your money back.
Correct.
And Miss Emery said that you fired her without good cause, and that's why she couldn't pay you back. When did she come to work for you?
She started working for me January of 2004.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
When was the surgery?
January
of 2005. So for the year that she worked for you, from January 2004 till January 2005, was her work satisfactory?
Yes, until the very end, which actually led to the dismissal. I had spoken to her on multiple occasions.
About what?
About making my child sit on a couch for 3 hours while my other child was sleeping.
That's not true.
When did she borrow the money from you?
She borrowed the money on January 14th.
So she borrowed the money after you had had conversations with her about her performance, her
Yes.
work performance. Was she scheduled to be out of work for any period of time?
Yes, she took 2 weeks off.
And there is no issue as to whether Ms. Herzog loaned you the money?
Correct.
Well, now I'll hear your defense.
Okay. In January, I gave my 2 weeks after I came back to work on Monday. Tuesday night, I called her and I told her I was going to stay with my sister. And she got angry at me and told me that I had to stay at her house.
Well, was it your usual routine to stay at her, to sleep at her house? Or were you
Yes, I was a live-in nanny, so I stayed at her house.
So why were you going to stay at your sister's house?
It was, she expected me to hang out with her and spend time with her at night when I was off duty. And I didn't think that I should have to stay at her house when I was paying her rent or spend time with her family if I didn't want to.
So what did you do?
We got in a big argument, and I told her that if I wanted to stay with my sister, that I could. And she got angry at me and then started accusing me of things with the boys, of not caring for them the way I should, and that I loved my nephew more and all this stuff that wasn't true. And we ended up getting in a fight, and on Wednesday I couldn't handle anymore, and so when she was at work, I moved out.
When you moved out on Wednesday, how did you intend to repay the $1,000?
I was going to make payments from... I gave her 2 weeks notice, and I was going to be able to get a job within that 2 weeks and pay her back. But 2 days later, she fired me. I tried to get unemployment, and she's fighting me on that. She's trying to do anything she can to ruin my life.
How are you supporting yourself?
Right now, I finally started to get unemployment from the state.
Go ahead. Let me hear what happened between Wednesday and Friday.
On Wednesday, I come home, and everything was moved out of the house.
And she quit?
And she quit. And she had my kids the whole day that she had done this.
Fine. She quit.
Yes,
Did she work for you on Thursday and Friday?
Yes. I didn't have anything else I could do at that point.
Okay. What did you say to her on Thursday and Friday?
I told her that I didn't understand why she would do something like she had done, move out of our home like that, quit. We had done everything to help her. It really hurt. It hurt to help someone so much and not...
Did you fire her on Friday?
I did not fire her. I rendered her services at that point.
What
I couldn't
happened?
trust her in my home.
So you fired her? You let her go? Tell me what you did.
I just came home and I gave her her money that she had worked and let her know that at that point on I did not want her watching my children.
Well, I would probably do the same thing. Somebody moved out of my house after almost a year working for me without notifying me, moved stuff out during the course of the day when you're supposed to be watching her children. I would probably terminate your services, too. In any event, you should have let her quit. She wouldn't have collected unemployment.
I'm fighting it.
Well,
she didn't appear to be a peer hearing last week, so...
The truth of the matter is, she quit on Wednesday, and she owes you the money. You took $60 out of...
Yes, I did.
The first paycheck, the last paycheck you gave her, so she owes you $940. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $940. That's all.
We let her into our home, let her borrow money, and then she just quit.
She begged me to stay with her. She told me to lie to unemployment.
She's not telling the truth, and actually that is another court appearance that she did not even appear to last week.
I worked my butt off for her. I took care of her kids. I loved them, and in return I got fired and treated like this.
I just don't think that she wanted to pay us back or be held accountable for what she did.